every city basically was a star city.
Again? Bernie? Again? You did it again.
It cuts out every time after the countdown.
My job to push it.
I didn't push anything, I swear.
Are we live? Hello, people. I think we're live. Yes, 27 people watching. Hello. Greetings, awesome beings. I thought I was going to have more time, but there you go. Short intro for you. Hello, welcome. We have a show tonight. We have Bernie and myself, and we have Stellium7, Mike, and we have Mike from 13th Monkey as well. So we're going to talk about Titans and Star Forts and Tartaria niches, maybe, and bits like that. So how is everyone?
Very good, thanks.
Yep, not too bad myself.
It's a rare rainy day here, but it's nice and cozy.
I would trade the snow in Canada that just started falling for rain any day, but other than that, doing good.
Wow, I'm sitting here in like a short sleeve summer shirt and shorts, so you can think of me, Bernie.
Every day, wishing I was on that coast.
All right, who we got here? Arthur, hello. John, Frank, Andrea, TW, Fred, Kirsten, Manda, Kelly, Joey. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Everyone who didn't. Oh, Crypto Alchemist is even in there. Hello. How are you? All right. Well, I've been doing an event all day, so I'm completely unprepared. So I think you're going to have to take the line here, Bern, and tell us what we're doing.
All right. Well, I was very impressed by Mike and Mike's streams. I think it was about 2 weeks ago now, where you had 13th Monkey on, and we're going over all of the star forts and the different old world architecture everywhere that you guys have experienced, and the story that Mike was telling 13th Monkey about it being everywhere around you where you live in Europe. And then also my own alchemy and the electrolysis process, the monoatomics, and the breakdown of elements in what seems to be a completely different geological process that I've discovered and that ancient alchemists nanotechnology essentially is in this cold fusion. And it ties in directly to what Stellium7 has been looking into with these mud fossils. Well, I don't want to use the term mud fossil, but use that term or the of.
I sometimes use it, but I have more of a blanket term that I prefer to use, which is biogeology, because I think mud fossils is a part of it all. People think I'm trying to steal Roger Spur's thunder by doing that. That's not the point at all. It's that the things that I was finding, which are related to what he's been talking about and teaching about for, I guess, 7 years now, are kind of part of the same family, but the way in which they were formed is distinct, in my opinion. None of the findings that I found here are really explained by mud fossil theory, and so that was why I coined that term.
I like that. So say one more time.
Biogeology. So, I mean, it's just the idea. I mean, even in mainstream geology, they tell us that all of our sedimentary layers are made of biology that has died and compressed, and, but they're giving hundreds of millions of years timelines. And then they talk about tectonic activity moving things upward, and that's how it all breaks off. And then we get all of this myriad of minerals and stones and whatnot. And, yeah, so I found a lot of things that are kind of anomalous and don't really make any sense whatsoever when it comes to the mainstream narrative of how the stones in this region, anyway, have formed. So Roger Spur was definitely one of the.
Is my screen flickering?
Oh, yeah, we had some interference there, Campbell. Seems like you're back.
I'm just going to drop out and come back in. It's going all wonky, so I'll be back in a tick.
Okay. No worries.
How do I leave?
Campbell's being replaced. with Bert and Ernie. We've replaced Campbell with Bert and Ernie, which
that's nice. Good to have you guys.
We keep our symmetry that way, I guess.
Oh, don't know what he's doing. But yeah, so I was really fascinated with the biogeology that you've been discovering, and that like wood is petrified, bones apparently, fossils are petrified, so why can't other things be petrified and fossilized in different manners? And from what I've been discovering, it seems like it is the more likely case and part of our missing science, both for health biology as well as geology and technology in general.
Yeah, it ties, if it's, if this stuff is true about titans and the giant trees and biogeology, then, major cornerstones of all of the ologies need to be examined, for a lot of reasons.
Pretty much everything we've been taught needs to be forgotten and reassessed, and all the books of every science and history rewritten from where we are at right now. It's just ridiculous what's been coming out lately.
Yeah, so the electrolysis stuff that you're doing there, I don't know what what are the experiments you're working on there? You show those jars a lot in your streams.
Yeah, so there's this is the pure white powder, or this is still in water, but it dries out to a powder. This is the monoatomic metal element. So I've been able so far to turn gold, silver, copper, zinc, iron, bismuth, and like 5 other metal, aluminum, and several others into just this pure white single atom monoatomic and what I believe to be plasma state matter. Then there's also the oxidized diatomic and what the alchemists of old called the red mercurial state of metals, and 4 other colors of states of metals in their transmutational state that Sir Isaac Newton talks about, as well as all the other ancient alchemists in this lost science of cold fusion and plasma, which truly is a higher science, higher dimensional science, and higher dimensional technology than our current understanding of the systems and what they claim is geology and chemistry and all of that.
And thank you very much, Len Jones. Thank you. Red mercury. So that was in the bottom. What was that? It wasn't red mercury, was it? It was.
So this was copper turned into this, but I've been able to turn several other metals into this pure red colored particle state. So it's like a diatomic or triatomic, and the alchemists refer to it as the mercury state of metals, and that all metals can be turned into this red state. The next step is going to be getting this material tested in a couple of labs, impartial labs nonetheless, to verify that it is a mercury compound, at which point it would be proving pure metal transmutation within the electrolysis from copper into mercury, or water or salt into mercury. Whatever it was, I didn't start with mercury.
But that's
yeah. So
it's awesome.
So if you start with mercury, that's how you get red mercury. We think you've got, you've got to you've got to get plasma and 4th stage into it, but yeah. So that's just normal, maybe normal mercury that's red.
It would be a
red mercury.
It's mercury that's red. The metal particle that was, so like for that was copper, so it'd be copper mercury oxide or something like that.
So you can get blue, yeah. Cool.
So do I understand correctly that you started with a little bit of the initial metal, and then you've just got it in water, and you're using electrolysis, and is that metal dissolving and then becoming this foamy monatomic
Precisely.
thing? Okay,
Like
wow.
it's off
So
the anode side that it forms this pure white monoatomic material to begin with, and you harvest it, and it'll stay in that state.
is it structured?
Like, what do you mean by structured?
Are you familiar with the fourth
Structured
stage of water?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So like the exclusion zones and structured water. Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's a whole other presentation. But when I have the reactions going, there'll be like a 1 inch of water that's completely clear, another inch or centimeter that's just the particles, and it'll be like rotating one way, then another centimeter of completely clear exclusion zone, and so forth and so forth. But
you had a slight one the other day when you showed the clear and the gold water that was separated.
Yeah.
And didn't you say in that one that you were not losing the anode through the electrolysis, that you were actually just gaining? Is that right, or am I wrong there?
On some of the reactions, that's what it seems to be. But the ones where I'm putting in like the 5 volts of current, AC current, it seems to constantly erode the anode. But on other reactions where I just put a very, very small, like a 0.5 volt of DC, or just connect the metals to themselves with 2 wires with no voltage going outside, power source going in, it'll produce on a slower rate, but it'll produce the monoatomics, and it doesn't seem to degrade the metal at all whatsoever. And
yeah, I was just going to ask, how do you prevent the anode being eroded, because that would obviously contaminate the samples with whatever the anode is made of, right?
Well, so that's why, like, when I'm saying I'm making monoatomic gold, it's that I'm using a 10 gram 24 karat gold bar on the anode side, and that the gold is literally eroding away from solid gold into that pure white monoatomic gold, and then I'm collecting it, so it's massive.
So the gold itself is the anode.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
so the metals I'm using
the molecular bonds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you end up with just like singular gold bonds, gold molecules that have no bonds to anything else. That's the monoatomic.
You got it.
Exactly. Do you know the work of Dr. Lenny Time? Have you heard that name?
I do not think I have.
I've got to put you guys in touch, and maybe we can go on together sometime, because he has a PhD in molecular chemistry, and he's talking a lot about cold fusion, and so you guys would have a lot of things to talk about.
100%, because
there are 2 interviews on my channel that I did with him, or he was interviewing me, because he's very open to the things that I've been showing and discovering, and
nice.
So yeah, those are interesting conversations. Lenny Time, THYME.
THYMEK. I'm definitely gonna check.
Yeah, and I'll put you guys in touch through Discord.
Are you on Discord, Bernie?
I'm slowly figuring it out. I do.
You're learning it?
All right. Or through some other means. Too many platforms. Too little.
Yeah, time. I know, right? I'm just doing WhatsApp.
Just to quickly answer a little bit more of that, Mike. So the anode that I'm using is or the monoatomic metal that I'm making is, I use that pure metal on that anode side, and that at the beginning of the reaction, it produces the pure white monoatomic. Then as it starts to degrade, it produces the blue diatomic. And then the blue oxide is what's poisonous and gives you your heavy metal poisoning. So it goes from extremely healthy to extremely toxic in a very short time. Then the red mercurial state and the yellow. There's also the yellow sulfuric state that they claim, and I don't know if it's a sulfur compound, and transmutating the metal or water or salt also into sulfur. But it's that the copper whether it's copper, whether it's iron, whether it's gold, whether it's silver, it'll form into these different colored particle states that the ancient alchemists had labeled either sulfur, mercury, calcified, and the calcium ones, it's like a different whitish beige. It's not the same as the fluffy white monoatomic that just like floats like nothing. It's more of a chalk, the calcium one. And yeah, so it's been quite fascinating, and it really seems to be a lost science that was known a lot more and been suppressed, and a key part of cold fusion.
So in the monatomic state, it's said by many to be very beneficial for health. I don't know the different ways in which it is, but what other uses would you have for the monatomic gold? Because that's an expensive little process, right? You start with 10 grams. I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's some expensive cloudy water you got there.
So this summer I used about 2 grams of the monoatomic gold specifically, and first off, the water that you make off of it, it dissolves, and that's like where you get your colloidal silver water, colloidal gold water, or whatnot. So that drinking that water is the same health benefits supposedly as colloidal silver or colloidal gold. And I started watering lettuce plants and a couple kale plants in my garden throughout the spring and summer this year. The kale grew about 3 to 4 times the size as the rest of the kale. The lettuce grew about 5 to 6 times the size as all the other lettuce. And the lettuce I had put a little
bit the lettuce did win.
Gold itself in.
So the lettuce did beat kale.
I just learned yesterday for the first time something totally mind-blowing, that distilled water does not conduct electricity.
Yeah.
So the electricity moving through water has everything to do with the trace elements.
Yeah.
So that was like, whoa, okay, that's really interesting. So there's life right there, right? Because whether it's nerve conduction or blood flow or whatever, it's all related to those trace elements in the end, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
and
Bernie,
and the structure.
I'm assuming you're familiar with cinnabar.
Cinnabar.
Yeah, I was going to ask that also. It's interesting you brought it up, Mike.
So
that's the principal ore of mercury, and the crystals it makes are like this deep, shiny red.
I have seen a little bit. I've never actually experimented with it though, or had it around. I've read a lot referring to cinnabar in alchemical practices of old, though. It's key ingredient.
Is that where they get mercury? I always wondered where they got mercury from.
Yeah, cinnabar.
There's a very interesting series by a guy named Jan Irvin of Logos Media on the history of Salem, looking at things from an alternative history perspective. And he showed that that's where I think Salk, with the first vaccines, were emerging from that area. There's a whole nexus of a bunch of, Woodstock is right there. Crowley lived in the area. And then you've got the Salem witch trials and all of that stuff and that history. And apparently that's where vaccination emerged from. And the early shots had cinnabar in them, which is red mercury. And so it's one of the things it's known to do is cause madness of different kinds, right? So that's an interesting one. And then you got the Salem witch trials, right? Everyone thinking there's witches out there. So I don't know, maybe there's a connection between those things.
Wow.
So I'm glad you brought up the witches. And so the electrolysis part, if you think about it, an iron pot, and they put in some salt, if they were using a copper spoon, that is essentially creating the same electrolysis reaction between the making the pot the cathode and or the pot the anode and the spoon the cathode. And another interesting part is when if you put your blood, your saliva, any of your like cellular matter into the electrolysis reaction while it's live, instantly off the cathode side where the hydrogen bubbles up, white flakes start bubbling up, and it's like this oily supposedly amino acids, and that it's replicating your amino acids in your DNA cells off into this white bubbling material.
Wow, it's an interesting subject. Definitely put you in touch with Lenny, and because he and I have been going back and forth just in messages. I haven't talked to him in voice for a while, but different theories that he has about cold fusion and how it might lead to petrification, because that's where it gets really interesting, is how can this kind of technology, I mean, we know that all the different kinds of geopolymers that are possible, more and more discovered all the time, everything from concrete all the way up to different kinds of stone, right up to diorite, which is one of the harder stones that exists. And there's lots of evidence of that stuff that has to be geopolymer, because no other explanation for the creation of these delicate vases made by the Egyptians makes any sense. They weren't carved on a lathe. If they didn't have diamond tipped instruments for carving diorite vases, so it makes a lot more sense that it was like a clay-like material. They threw it on a lathe and then they set it somehow. And this gets into the works of Girolamo Sagato and his instant petrification, for which there's museums that have his pieces in Italy that are still, it's still in existence. And another guy named Bruni, there's all the questions with geopolymers and the statues. Paul pointed out something in one of his videos, Paul Cook. I think it might have been he was talking about Scaliola. I think it was Paul, the other Paul, What the Flock TV. He did a little video on statues. It was really interesting. And I lived in Italy for a while, and I saw a lot of these statues with my own eyes. And some of them are just these incredibly intricate designs with fish nets and veils laid over bodies, and they look real. But there's no grain whatsoever.
There's no grain, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that suggests that it was a polymer that they set. And we do this now with light in the teeth. The fillings that we put in our teeth nowadays are geopolymers. Or not geopolymer, but polymers, and they set them with light. So UV light hits it, and within a couple of minutes, you can already chew on that tooth. Whereas the amalgam with mercury, before, you had to wait some hours, otherwise you might damage the contour that they had created in the filling. So it's fascinating stuff, and it ties into everything, because it ties into old world construction, it ties into the art, it ties into what we know about the sciences.
And it's all nanotechnology, and that the ancients understood and used nanotechnology a lot more than we even comprehend today in our super advanced technological society.
But they called it alchemy.
Exactly.
Because that's what it is. It's alchemy.
Yeah. Well, we just took the L off it, right? Alchemy is chemistry. That's all it is.
Right.
Well, wordplay. Chem, electrochemistry, electric chemistry.
Yeah.
Cold fusion within the water process.
Nice.
So I want to pull Mike into this discussion a bit, because we've been talking a lot about Tartaria and how Tartaria has been kind of thrown under the bus recently as a direction to go in for study, as a psyop, as a some communist plot. And I'm curious what you guys think about this, because I guess you've come under fire because you're talking about these kinds of things every day.
Yeah. There's stuff going on for sure. As we were saying before,
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. We find it very interesting, because we've been looking at this stuff now for the last 4 years, and I think it goes a whole lot deeper than EWAR and wooden nickels. I was actually praising EWAR for, after he came out with a couple of his videos, and one in particular on bricks, and he discovered things, and he's like, wow, stuff that I thought was true turns out to not be true. And so I need to come out with this and tell people what I've learned, because I've made claims about things that are inaccurate. And I was praising him for that, and a lot of people were criticizing him. I'm like, why are you criticizing him? This is what we should all be doing. When we're faced with new information that conflicts with our beliefs, we should integrate that, and we should, rectify our mistakes if we've made claims to the public. I mean, if you're talking about it with a friend, so what? But if you're making videos about things, and
So if you're claiming stuff, I agree.
Right,
because
and so I was great with that, even though he was getting criticized and people are always flip flopping, and he's a shill, he's an agent, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. It's like, what happened to the ability to keep like different ideas in your head without having to accept them?
I agree with that, and like I fully respect the scientific method of like you come out with an idea, a thesis, and then you test it, and then it's either proving correct or incorrect, and then you go off of that like, oh, the results were we were wrong, so you correct yourself, or the results were we're right, so we expand on the ideas and come up with more thesis to test it and to prove it or disprove it. But then there's flip-flopping where it's like if you're going back and forth where you like you take the one position, then the next week you come out against it, but then 2 weeks later you flip-flop back to your original one, then it's like it's not really going for verification or evidence-based. It's more of an emotional response or some other agenda behind the back and forth.
Yeah, and he called his new videos a flip-flop production, so he understood that he was getting heat for doing that. And yeah, you want to be consistent and use logic in your thinking. But I think they threw out the baby with the bathwater because they missed the point is that Tartaria, was really kind of a placeholder term for something much bigger than just a particular region in Siberia, right? I mean, the maps show, and who knows how old those maps are. They could, look at what AI is doing with art right now. They could have pumped out a whole shit ton of maps using algorithms, but the thing is, the oldest maps that we're looking at when we go back have these sections, that are labeled as Tartaria, but I always saw Tartaria as a chunk of something much grander. And, you got the Moorish Empire and you got whatever was happening in North America, because there's all kinds of ancient world there in North America that doesn't match the historical narratives at all. So it makes perfect sense that, there was something way bigger. And that's it's like the elephant. We're all looking at different parts of the elephant, trying to make sense of it all. And people are like, but it's a trunk. This is a tree trunk, and it's like, no, it's a leg, and
that's what I said a little bit earlier, right? It's not all star forts everywhere, but there's forts everywhere.
Show us some stuff, Mike. Pull up your screen, because this is the thing.
There you go. A couple more than I've got.
Oh, wow.
Welcome to the realm.
And this was what I was saying the other day when we were on Beegs is, people can go to a star fort and try and prove that it wasn't constructed or it was constructed the way they said. But look at what we're looking at now. Explain all of them, and that's what you were saying, Mike, is they're not looking at the big picture. They're sort of hyper-focusing. And as far as Tartaria, when this research started, we're talking 6-7 years ago, that was the main focus, is we'd found this, this civilization that we'd never been told about called Tartaria, and that just stuck as a name, and now it's a keyword search term. So if people want to get triggered about the word, get over yourself.
Andreas coined the term recent Tartarians, which was kind of the name for our little group that was on this Discord going 4 years back, and there's a bunch of different people who are also content creators that were on there, and different people that have dipped in and out of that Discord, over the last few years. And then the original Discord got taken down, and so then people filter off to other Discords, and there's factions and people are arguing with each other. And it's just like a microcosm of what's going on now in the larger community, where people have missed the point, which is nobody's got the whole picture. We're all trying to figure out what the heck is going on, discovering all kinds of inconsistencies with what we've been taught in schools and learned about the way the world is. And, down to the very most fundamental things of like the actual earth that's under our feet, and what is it really and what's it made of. And that's what the whole thrust of my channel really is studying that. But this gets into not just things like titans and biogeology, but also the great trees. And the evidence for that is completely overwhelming. If you're familiar with it, it is completely self-evident when you have the eyes to see. And that's what I was talking about in a live stream a couple days ago that I put on my channel yesterday with Andreas and Raphael from Team Rabbit Hole, just looking at the trees and looking at the just undeniable evidence that this world was way more profound than we ever dreamed of, far more than, I mean, Hollywood's giving it to us all, but in the form of movies and mythology and superheroes and whatnot. But that seems to be our real past. And the history that we've been given is just a joke on so many levels.
Right? Avatar, is that the reality? Like the ancient legends of giant blue beings, demigod beings, and the giant trees everywhere. It would appear.
Yeah, and the mythologies, the Greeks, talked about the Titans and Medusa and instant petrification. And then you've got the Book of Enoch, which talks about the Titans, the fallen angels mating with the daughters of men, and then giving birth to the Titans, who then start to destroy and terraform, and so they're overthrown, and things get smaller after that, right? And things seem to keep getting smaller. So I have a strong belief that we live in a fractal reality, and this infinite space that NASA is giving us is a fairy tale compared to the reality of the situation, which I think is far more profound than any of us can even start to fathom. And we can't get outside of the system to really observe it. And all of the information they're giving us that's supposed to be proof is CGI and fakery and harnesses and bubbles in space and faked curves and all kinds of stuff. So
I have to throw in third phase of the moon. They're the second largest UFO channel out there. And even they, this past week, were showing NASA video from the space station showing these CGI glitches, things going between and through the astronauts. And they're like, what the heck is this? So there truly is awakening happening. And people really are starting to put aside the past.
We just need to get people onto it.
Mike was just zooming in on it. Sorry, my mic was just zooming in on a star fort very, very close to me and near and dear. That's right next to the mountain, the one he was just zooming in on, Mont Go. What were you saying, Campbell? Sorry, I interrupted.
I've forgotten.
I do that all the time.
It was really interesting, apparently.
Yeah. So tilt it and do a 360 spin around it.
So that's on a hill. I mean, we see so many like that.
Yeah, that's sitting up on a hill,
buried,
and Mont Go that's down to the left. If Mont Go had a left eye, it would be looking at that.
Yeah, right. It's like that.
Yeah.
Is it Montserrat? What's the one in France in the water? Is it Montserrat? No, it's
What is it? Chateau
Saint-Michel. Mont Saint-Michel.
Michel, yeah, the one that gets flooded out. I mean, you could imagine all these ones under hills are like that, right? They're just covered in dirt, and you can just see the top of them.
Yeah, these things, they're just so amazing. We started, Mike and I did a part 1, and I have a long series planned.
That's a good call.
The first video is called Star Forts I Have Known and Loved, and Svikal for short. And that was just that's the one you saw, Bernie, I think, where we were just looking at this little tiny star fort that's up on the mountain about 15 miles from where Mike is at right now. Just showing this little basic little 4-pointer. And I've, got all kinds of on-site footage of the star fort as well. And this one will come in part 2, which we'll do sometime very soon. But the whole idea is so much of the star fort analysis is being done through Google Earth and photographs and street view and stuff like that. And there's not a whole lot of boots on the ground, digging into these. And that's what I did with that one he's showing right there. We go, I took Andreas and Victor and my friend Howard and a couple of other people. We all were up in this and walking around in it. So It's funny because when I first got turned on to this topic of star forts, initially through Colm Gibney and Andreas had some videos, Andreas Exertus, and then I think Sylvia Ivanova had done something even like a year before them.
Yeah,
you know, and John Levy has been talking about Tartaria for about four years or more. I think was the first time I saw Tartaria on his video list. So a lot of people have been looking into this for a long time now, and suddenly it's a big psyop. You know, it's people don't really understand it. They're just looking at little tiny bits of a very, very big subject.
It's also, this is the reaction, right? You know,
yeah, look at that.
All truth is first laughed at, then it's, well, no, what it's first, all truth is first, you know, accepted as false, then it's ridiculed, scoffed, and then it's proven as true. So,
or accepted as self-evident, and that's when everyone goes, "Oh, I always knew that." Right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Sure, you did.
Even official narratives get it wrong.
Yeah.
They say official history says that this is the biggest dry mode fortification in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Dry mode.
Why then does it have an aqueduct that ends in the moat?
That's got those dots as well, Bern, like that big one in Spain. You know, that the big classic one. Portugal, I mean, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
All the dots are orchards.
That's this one.
Yeah.
Right you're just there. Yeah, right. Okay.
So I have a theory that potentially at the very center they had these underground aquifer systems that would shoot up and put water out of the top of it, and then it would cascade down through each level of moat, and that potentially those dots all at the very base of it, still at the top of the hill, but you see the symmetry, all the holes
in the front.
That potentially could have been aeroponics, with the end water after going through the moats of the forts and the towns, then cascading down and being for agriculture potentially. Not sure if there's evidence towards it, but it's an interesting thesis that we need some LiDAR, I guess, to be able to...
Well, this is it. We need to start getting out, boots on the ground. I just need to find some in Australia, man. Bloody hell.
Yeah, there's surprisingly little.
Yeah, I've found a few. I've got probably 10, but I need to keep looking. I mean, most of them aren't stars. They're just remnants, or, you know, you can kind of see there would have been one. Have you got the desert? There's one in the desert there, out in the middle of nowhere. There's the Roundhouse in Frio. Oh yeah, the memorial. Yeah, I think that's one.
I put a question mark like beside it because it. It's Australia.
It just looks like one. If you go down the front there, just in front of that, just where you were, there's another one. See the harbour there, at the front of the harbour a bit more. Go down. I think it's that just to the right a bit. Oh no, there it is there, yeah. That's called the Roundhouse. And apparently that was built by convicts. It was the first prison built in Fremantle, but that looks like a remnant of a star to me.
Yeah. Put a mark there.
Right, and it's what's below and how much has been built over. And
there you go. Now you got 5,001, Mike.
Oh, I'm still here. Sorry. Is that they need to start taking samples and comparing the different stones and bricks that they're all made out of. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of the bricks are going to be from the same sources, no matter where they are in the world, or the geopolymers will probably have some of the same materials, chemical compounds within them, no matter where they are.
If someone in this community had access to a spectroscopy machine, we could make some real headway.
What was that, Mark?
These should be fairly close to you, these two.
Yeah, that's Garden Island, I think. There's also one on Rottnest Oh no, is that an island? Oh no, that's just out the tip of Rockingham. Okay.
Cape Perrin.
Cape Perrin. And there's one on Rottnest Island, which is a bit further out. I think that's Garden Island there. An old, yes, that one there, yeah. Just in the bay there. Just on that point, sort of, there's another around that kind of area. There's the old, it's an old jail, but it looks like an old citadel. Where is it? It's sort of around that area.
Somebody in the chat asked if we've heard of Santos Bonacci's work, and I just thought I'd say I identify as a toroid earther, you know, and his all is a tomb videos are very fascinating, looking at all of the interconnections between magnetics and, you know, electricity and the way in which the magnetic fields work, and it's So I think Santos has had a lot of interesting things to bring to the table over the years.
Santos is, he does have some interesting stuff. I've got some
there's a conversation
videos up on his syncretism society.
Yeah, there's a conversation I had with him a few years back on my channel.
Oh, okay. I've done one with him.
So, Mike, maybe I don't know. Are you guys doing something specific right now, or
I think he's just searching.
He just.
I was supposed to show stuff.
I can see. I'm looking at. I'm seeing.
He gets into automatic searching mode.
I know. Like after a while, you start to see these bits, and I'm looking at them going there, and he's going straight into it. Yeah, okay. There. There's a couple along the beach there in Adelaide. If you just search, you got those, and there's a couple on Sydney Harbour, Sydney Heads. There's one the tip of Tasmania, which is Fort. What's it called?
Kangaroo something, right?
Kangaroo. It is Kangaroo, isn't it? I was going to say Wombat, but I knew that was wrong. I knew it was something Australian. So there's a couple around, I think, and if you look at the city of Adelaide as well, the actual city, it looks like an old star city, and they call Adelaide the city of churches. It's got cathedrals and stuff. Yeah, that bit there. Yeah, see that?
I gave it a black mark.
That's Adelaide.
I use a coloring system to basically identify what is what and what you're looking at. A whole lot of it, especially in Europe and I guess Australia as well, is just gone.
I started following the Brisbane River and the inlets up at Gold Coast, and I found quite a few sort of remains where you typically find them. That's Portfield down on the end there, straight down. Oh, you've already got them in yellow, have you? Yeah, down there on the ends. Yeah, there's two. Have you got the mark? No. So right on the edge of both of those tips, there's Starfort's remnants. That's one there.
One here.
And there's one across the bay from it. Yeah. Down in there. Yeah. So they're everywhere, right? But of course, those ones were built. I think, what do they say, World War II, to defend Australia, right? From all the people that were attacking the south coast of Australia.
The Russians scared, right?
Yeah, man, all those Antarcticans coming up. That's Kangaroo.
Bluff.
Yeah, Kangaroo Bluff, that's it, yeah.
And then they've got two more batteries sitting, one on the hill here.
Oh, okay, I don't have that one. Oh, nice.
Maybe you can zoom out and take in like the bigger picture. You guys could go into the minutia of hunting for hours.
Yeah, I know.
Do that on your own time.
I'd like to, if we could quickly look at the one we discovered in Kazakhstan the other day there, that it's in the middle of the desert and it's half covered by what looks like some sort of geological flow.
It's not covered by geological flow.
Yeah, we were talking about this. Was it yesterday, Mike? That exact one?
Yeah. It's an error that a lot of people make. So
It's a drop off, right?
It's a drop off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
it
dropped
looks
off.
at
So it's
first
eroded
away.
away.
At first look, it looks like it's covered
it's down.
over, but it's actually fallen away.
So
wow.
I'm not sure if this is visible for the people, but you got an elevation meter in Google, right there.
Yeah, you just hover over it. It tells you
Right
what
at
the
the
altitude
bottom here,
is.
where the mouse is, like, this is 164, 150 meters, and then you take it over the edge, and it drops steeply down to 80, 60, 50, 40.
Oh, so that's going down. I gotcha. Okay, it's a drop
That's
off.
almost crazier if it's eroded away, because this is in the middle of the desert of how long ago since there would have been that much water or whatnot to erode it away and eat that thing up.
But then the whole
crazy.
Caspian Sea changed shape several times over. So what I reckon is that this is an old coastline.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it from a mining perspective, also, you know, like Mike Ferrera's work.
If you take many of the oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, you know, that kind of cutout coastline also looks a lot like what those gigantic scoopers do, you know. So,
have you seen?
I also think the mining. Yeah, Mike Ferrera is that who you just mentioned?
May I say, have you seen Wave Rock in WA? It's a rock that looks like a wave. It looks like it's been scooped out by one of those machines.
I know which one you mean.
You're talking about the one that looks like flesh?
No, it just looks like a wave.
How long ago would it have been since the Caspian Sea would have ordered that, though? Like, it's changed a lot, but it's like, how recently, though, is the thing? Like, has the shores touched that zone, like, in modern times, or not? And so much in, like, recorded history, I guess, is the question.
Well, see, with all these star forts everywhere, this is going to, this is the question, right? We put them all there.
That's the Caspian Sea.
Yep.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
And if you take many of these old maps, it's just as oblong as the Black Sea is right next to it. You see?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there is no mention even of the Aral Sea, which by now is slowly starting to return, but that's been almost dry as a bone for a couple of decades now. It's the same here. Oblong shape.
But I was thinking the same as you guys when it came to that one star fort, you know, that it had been covered up. And to me, that was totally fascinating. Like, okay, was the star fort there before the mountain? But then, you know, you realize it's actually inverted.
It's a drop off.
But like in the States, you know, you guys are familiar with this whole 1 mile square grid that is across the entire continent,
Yeah, in the ground, yeah.
And it's like, those are, you don't notice them because you got the patchwork quilt of all the agriculture and all the rectangles and different shapes. So you don't realize that there's actually a grid that's 1 mile square to perfection that goes like across, I don't know, 2/3 of that, the US and all of that farmland. But those lines extend to the mountains and then continue on the other side of the mountains. So that either means they had to be aerially mapped for perfection, or the lines were there before the mountains, which is really mind-blowing. If that's the case, then it starts to feel like, you know, simulation theory or something.
Yeah,
you know?
what's the grid for, right? That sounds very simulation.
Show them a bit of that, Mike. It's just that was like a psychedelic trip for me when I first saw that. Mike was on with another guy, a friend of ours named Ben, and they were just, what's that?
Isn't seeing this when you're not familiar with it psychedelically enough?
Yeah, no, that's true. It's all a mind blow when you start to get into the scope and the majesty and the quantity of these structures and
if you start looking at the official narrative of Vauban and his fortifications, you just gotta have a laugh, right?
Yeah. I know, right? They just traveled around the world building forts. Come on.
Like I'm known to be fairly skeptic about quite a lot of things, but too much.
I mean, I read that story a couple of years ago when I didn't know, we didn't know that there was thousands of, we knew there were hundreds, and it was funny back then. Now to think that they're trying to tell us that literally every starfort was built within a 200-year period by roaming bands of starfort builders. I mean,
yeah, go away.
This is where I feel Ewar and wooden nickels threw out the baby with the bathwater, because that's just self-evident. It's obvious if you see the scope and you understand what's there. And I think channels like John Levy's and yours and others have been showing the absurdity of some of these mainstream stories for a long time. It doesn't mean we have to present a functioning alternative model to recognize, hey, there's a whole ton of shit that doesn't add up. When you start to scratch the surface. Like, look at this grid. Wait a second. Because zoom back in, Mike. Oh, you're probably behind me.
I had been zoomed in for quite a while.
Yeah, no, but no, zoom in more, because those aren't the mile squares. There we go. That is a mile.
Yeah.
Okay, those are mile squares. So when you're zooming out or you fly over it, you don't see this grid because there's such a patchwork of different things. But if you go and you follow those lines in any direction, they're going to run into mountains, and then on the other side of the mountain they continue. So like, who built that infrastructure? And Beagles has been talking about viaducts and there's a whole lot of stuff out there that's on a scope that we can't even really grasp.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, this whole bloody whatever's going on. I mean, the biggest thing is people are spending their time trying to prove other people wrong. I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't they just doing their own research? If they think that, if I think someone's wrong, I either don't watch them or I, go and do the research and prove either to myself or make a video on, with a different perspective. But these, shilly type people are just hyper focusing on one thing and trying to disprove it, but it doesn't mean anything in the big picture, which is what they don't understand.
Yeah, that's the shame.
It's a lot easier to push somebody down than to pull them up, and
well, a lot of people think
which gets more clicks.
Yeah, well, unfortunately it is, right? I mean, yeah.
What were you going to say, Mike? Yeah,
sensationalism.
Oh wow, that's in
it's nice, pretty nice.
This one is a bit of a conundrum.
No,
where's that?
no.
This one takes the cake when it comes to narrative. It's
okay. What's the story?
It's built in permafrost with no cement whatsoever. It's just bricks stacked up on top of each other, and you can't, like with the pyramids, you can't stick a paper through. That's how precise the bricks are. And the official narrative is when it was finished, they sort of just left it.
There's so many starforts that got built and never got used, isn't there? That's almost a standard story.
And
I don't know about you guys, but I go out on the weekends and I build these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I roam around with a band of starfort builders.
I don't.
We used to do crop circles, and we're just like, no, these are too beautiful. We need something more, permanent.
Need more symmetry, man. More geometry. Yeah. Oh wow.
I'm not sure what this is, but I started drawing it out because who puts this in the ground again in the permafrost?
Yeah. And then, I mean, that's another good point, isn't it? Because, I mean, we're told that wasn't permafrost, all the time, right? And we've got everyone knows the story of the mammoths with, tropical plants in their stomach. And so they had to have been built before there was permafrost, right? I mean,
All of these
It
red ones
doesn't
are
make
the-
sense that you would do there, because what's the function of it? If it's permafrost, no one's going there. No one's living there. No
fur
one's
trading posts.
It's
Yeah,
fun.
like-
I'm watching Bernie. He keeps leaning in closer to the,
Yeah,
to
I
the
was
screen.
thinking that,
He's like,
doesn't
what?
Hudson
What is
Bay
that?
freeze
Well,
over every winter? Like it's only accessible by ship for like a few months out of the year to get up there. From that time period to build a star fort there, that's absolutely insane.
Yeah, you'd go there for 3 months, go away, go back the next year for 3 months, and God, after like 20 years, you might have something built.
There's one that's totally an anomaly. Like, how far is that from everywhere else?
Oh, that's in the frost as well. Wow.
That must have been easy to build.
Is that
Top of the
Canada?
world to you.
Wow. Have you found any? I mean, you can't see anything really on Greenland, can you? What's the most northern ones you've found?
This one, that one. Don't take into account
that's
any of the black
pretty
star. Any black star is just a suspicion of stuff. The town is called Fort. Every town here you zoom into is called Fort.
Oh, really?
I need to put places on. Yep, there you go. Fort Yukon. So every black star is a town called Fort.
Wow.
Fort Selkirk.
Just mind-boggling.
If it's black, I don't have any like confirmation of it being a star fort. It's just an educated guess.
Looks like it, yeah. So does anyone know the etymology of fort? Of like fortress, I guess? Does it actually, I mean, does it actually mean anything to do with war? It's probably got a completely different meaning. Probably just means stronghold or something.
Fort in Swedish, that word means strong.
It does mean strong?
Fort, like you can be strong. Fort.
Nice.
Yeah.
I am foot.
I am Fort.
Yeah, that's what I started to talk about before. The series that Mike and I started is I wanted to show it from a personal side, because I found out after learning about these things that I'd lived in 6 different ones of these, and I still live in one. So I didn't even know they existed. Yeah, because I moved to Italy in '97 as an exchange student. I lived in Siena, which is a beautiful, beautiful star citadel. Then from there, I went to Padova, which was an even bigger star city that has incredible historical significance, because that's basically where the heliocentric model emerged, because both Galileo and Copernicus were professors at what's known as the second oldest university in the world. So there's a lot of really interesting things about that city. Then there's Venice, a half an hour away from that. I didn't live there, but I went there a ton because it was a short bus ride. So I know that city just as well as I know the others. And then from there, I moved to Sweden, and I lived in Stockholm, which is a giant star citadel. And then the family of my girlfriend had a cabin on a little island, and right next to that was a 4-pointer. And then the harbor that you sail into and out of to get on and off of this island was another star citadel. So it's like all of a sudden I'm just like, I've been living in these like for the last 20 plus years, 25 years, and I didn't even know they existed. That's
the many stars of Mike.
Yeah, so I'm going to be showing it, just kind of, it's like photojournalism, also just showing a bit of my own experiences.
But it'd be a cool story too.
History.
Yeah, because there's a story attached to it, you could show it in a different light,
and you could reach it. You could reach one of these,
and you could reach a completely different audience too, dude.
Yeah, that's
wake up some travelers and stuff.
I don't. My channel seems to be just going.
You could write a romance novel, Romance of the Stars.
Oh, if I get into fiction, I could do a lot of fun stuff with Montgo and Titans. And
I mean, fiction's often the best way to go, though, because you can get the message.
If I live long enough.
Yeah, I know, it's just time, isn't it?
We're
So
getting
many-
to
Good.
non-atomic
It's only
gold.
right
We'll all live for thousands of years.
Yes. Have you also embraced transhumanism like Andreas?
Just need to do a couple of blood sacrifices, mate. You'll be right. A couple 100 years more.
I don't go
But
in
if
for
your
that kind
flesh
of stuff.
survives but your soul's dead, is that really living forever?
That's a good
Well,
point.
what is consciousness? I mean, you were talking about the scientific method earlier, and so many people don't even understand that there's a false dichotomy that's been thrust upon us, between the scientific method, which applies to matter, and then there's the whole spirit realm and religion and faith and all those things, and empaths and intuition and all this stuff that's immeasurable, that we're just going to put that in a whole other category, and then we have science over here, and it's like that's never how it was. Science has always been integrated with spirit because we're spirit first, and then matter comes later, and so it's really they've really done a whammy on people as far as how they perceive the world and their cosmologies, and people don't have a clue how much stuff that they're going around believing all the time that they've never actually investigated and might not be true at all.
That's a very good point, right? Because it's like the first thing that's indoctrinated in is YOLO. You only live once, like you're here, then you're dead, and then there's nothingness, or you're in hell or heaven, but like there's no.
Yeah. It's a materialistic, deterministic, evolutionary false dichotomy that leads to nihilism and depression and no contact with spirit. And this is why, if like when it comes to the Heartstones, if this is accurate, what I've been showing in the research, these are incredibly important ideas because they completely change our relationship to the world around us and nature and how we see and perceive reality. And this is how the ancients did. They talk about the native peoples, the American Indians, and the Sami and all these different cultures being animistic in the way they saw reality, and they were far more in touch with nature. They saw everything as imbued with spirit, and that all of the rocks were actually the remains of the ancients and the elders. And then they had all of these myths like Titans and all of these grand stories that we're taught are just myth and superstition. And but now we're so sophisticated, and we move beyond that, and we are going to the stars, and we send rockets up all the time, and we do that with our God, which is science. And they don't realize that they're just sucked into a cosmological model that is scientism. It's not even necessarily based on reality or any empirical experimentation. It's I called it a theory tale the other night.
Anything specific any of you wants to see, like, because I can go over the map all day, which is what I pretty much do, but
yeah, Mike is an unsung hero. He spent tens of thousands of hours probably by this point doing this, or at least thousands.
A couple of the walls, or one of the walls maybe, that's either in Ukraine or Russia, or the Chinese walls that you've been plotting out, or if they're all Starfort walls, those are something else. That has anybody found any written history on the Starfort walls that have been recently been uncovered?
if you can read Cyrillic, probably, and that's about it.
I love that answer.
Cyrillic. What is that? That's
So
a language from what region?
That is the big wall in the Ukraine, which is basically at some point the border of the Tatar Empire.
Exactly, right? Because on the old maps of Tartaria, it like comes up to right to that area pretty much.
Yeah, so the Crimea and sort of like slightly north of the Dnieper River, that was Little Tartary. Even if you look at all these old maps, Little Tartary, Petit Tartare. So this was the border with Tartary.
So this is where the critics jump on and say, you see, this was really a small portion of the world. And it's like, yeah. But but it makes a good placeholder, at least to introduce people to these ideas.
You see the lines in the earth, right?
Yeah, but exactly, with the little bastions, or what else are they called? Literally goes for hundreds, if not thousands of miles.
Most of it is where, let me get that rid of that. Most of it is mapped out wherever I can see the remains. There's nothing to see here, or I haven't discovered it yet. But most of it been filled in. The other red thing is a canal that is often mentioned on the old maps.
Yeah. We've taken a
And
look
it just
at
runs
it.
in between forts. Oh, yeah. Just one you can't see. Remains. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it looks like you got at least 500 kilometers, if not more, or miles at least, of it bending up and around, because you got 2 to 3 times more than what me and Campbell had there. And ours was 200 kilometers that we added up and measured on the Sniper section.
I'm not sure what. Fort. Oh wow, the mouse is awfully loud. I'm sorry.
Have you noticed any of the forts? We've started noticing that lots of them, or where it looks like there should be stars, they're quarries. They've been quarried out. Have you noticed that at all?
There's a bunch of that happening here.
Yeah, that's where we found a couple down at the
So this one even mentioned the Kodak fort. I think this is one of the ones that I got from Sylvie Ivanova's video.
Sylvie, yeah, Sylvie. She's the one who started all this craziness off.
Good old
and that's why E. Warren Wood and Nichols start calling it a psyop from Russia.
She's Russian? Yeah, you're right. It's Russian disinformation, is it?
Romanian or no, Bulgarian. She's not even Russian.
But how
she's not Russian. Yeah.
How can it be Russian disinformation and a CCP psyop at the same time? Isn't that like? Weren't they also saying that like the whole thing has been pushed by the TikTok algorithms and the CCP because it basically causes people to call everything into question about our history? I mean, that's kind of what they were saying, right? Am I
Well, I mean, as far as I can see it, what they're doing now is trying to prove that the system's correct and everything we've been told is right. I mean, and then they think we're I think we're the communists. What's going on? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's odd. Like I said, I was praising Iwar, and I got into the comments on that video that he did on the bricks, and I asked him about the great trees because you were talking about Sylvia Ivanova. She was the one who trickled that out to the mainstream consciousness, and it was a Russian channel that had done that, and she brought it in English or gave it subtitles or something. And since she had a big platform, then it spread like wildfire. And I saw that around the same time I was looking at Mud Fossil University, and then Jay Dreamers did his Petrified Titans video, and that was like boom, that was kind of the synthesis of all of these different threads, and that was really what caused my brain to go, wait a minute, what about Mont Go, this mountain here that looks like an elephant behind me? And when I started to look into it and study it, that's when it all got really, really weird and Twilight Zone-y, because there was way too many things lining up that shouldn't have lined up. Okay, overall shape, okay, it looks like an elephant from a particular angle. Oh wow, there happens to be a cave where the eye is, and it looks like an eye socket, and it's shaped like eyebrow ridge and all. It's like, not that elephants have eyebrows obviously, but so
Do elephants have eyebrows?
So I asked eyebrow ridge. I'm just talking about the shape of the bone structure.
I know, but do they have eyebrows? I'm actually interested.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Never thought about that.
I've never verified that one for myself. But yeah, so Sylvia Ivanova, the big trees, and then this is long before I came across Hangman 1128's work, and I just have to say that's the best channel out there right now.
For the giant trees, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because his footage is so undeniable. When you see it for what it is and you recognize it, like I can take over for a second, Mike, and show a couple of things here, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Let me.
Do I have to stop them?
Share my screen. I don't know if you do or not.
No, I think it just takes over, doesn't it?
Share the screen and yeah. So let's see. Screen number 2, and then I had. This is the wave rock. Yeah, this is what you were talking about, Campbell. This totally looks to me like it was scooped out by that. You know that world's largest scooper
miner.
The one up in Russia. Yeah.
Wheel miner. Right. I think there's a lot of stuff that Mike Ferreira, he's on Facebook, he's done some interviews with Philip Drugin, and he's been on with Philip like 3 or 4 times. And everything is mining to him, and he doesn't buy any of my research at all whatsoever. He's been very upfront about that. But he's talking about the giant miners. Now, obviously something like this can create tabletop plateaus and just, taken away this material. But what if something far bigger than this existed also? And that's when you start seeing stuff like this, and it's like, or these different bends in the rivers where you get this scooping action as well. And that's how these things work. They sit and they swivel. So you could just move it and then scoop out and then move it. And so
Google Earth too.
You're showing what?
The machine, the bucket wheel excavators, the biggest ones.
Oh, you're showing one.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I can.
Oh, where are we going? Now we're back to. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Tilt. See if it shows up as like a 3D building.
Don't think so. No.
How do you know that without tilting?
Because you can see it pop up because my computer is old.
No, but usually if you tilt it, you get a 3D view because of the angle, or you can kind of zoom around. No, not so much. Never mind. All right. Okay. Anyway.
So what are they doing there? Just mining taking the layering off, are they?
Hey, you zoom out a bit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I don't know. Am I taking it, or did you switch? There we go.
Oh
no. What is is that a quarry?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I've got a folder on quarries that I wanted to show, but I can't find it right now. Trees, maybe? Quarries.
Yeah, I don't just map out star forts. I map out all kinds of interesting stuff.
Yeah. That's interesting shape too. That isn't it? I wonder if that was a stuff.
This is Germany's energy supply. Like we're all supposed to be energy, carbon efficient, blah 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 blah. And Germany runs on brown coal.
Yeah, right.
Because they can't have nuclear plants because green parties and stuff. No.
Yeah.
Let's not get into politics. But yeah, this is a nice example of that wave rock that you showed.
Yeah, right. It scoops sideways.
Bucket wheel excavator. And imagine them on a far larger scale, and you can start looking at places like Arizona, the Grand Canyon, and all of that stuff in a whole different perspective.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff, and he's definitely got some points. But it comes back to I don't think anyone's got the 100% answer. I don't think if you say everything's mined or everything's melted or everything's whatever, then I think
that doesn't fly with me either.
Nah, clearly a myriad of things have gone on. We've got a lot of stories that are all sort of running, and we don't know any of them.
That's it. There's so many.
Yeah, like what are volcanoes really?
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess that dude would say that they're spill tips, would he? What are they? No, tailing. Is that what they're
Yeah,
called?
well, that's the thing.
Tailing.
Like if you
I sort of
if you
think it depends on the size, because there's like that's another thing I mapped out, volcanoes
Volcanoes.
and some of the sizes you get with them. And I'm all up for like these smaller volcanoes. If you like, Vesuvius is a fairly small volcano on the scale of things, and if you look at it, it looks like a slag pile.
Yeah, or they look exactly like them, don't they?
Yeah.
And if you think
Yeah,
of its mining waste, then it could be full of chemicals and things. Then that could literally give it the eruptive power and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about all the tabletop mesas that look like tree trunks, right? If you look at a slag heap, it can form in the exact same shape. So that would suggest that, oh, maybe, you know, it's either like scooped out and it, you know, you scooping around a plateau and that's what's left. You know, it might not be a tree in some cases, right? So then if you throw out the trees as a possibility after discovering that, then you're not looking at the whole picture, because this, for example, this guy's footage shows you that the trees were real, and it's not just the ones that are razored off at the bottom, right? Like Devil's Tower. And so the thing with those is that implies that there had to be something big enough to cut them down. Where did the trees go? You know, that suggests a much greater realm. And if you add in the great beasts and all the mythologies and everything, Titans starts to make sense, and, you know, and a whole lot of other things. So, but that's all the realm of mythology for us, you know, in the mainstream, until you come across this guy's work. And if you look here, you can see my screen, right? So this is
the wood.
Are you showing me? Yeah. So this is just like an example of one of many, many different kinds of ways that these trees can break down. And you get these little pieces here, and he'll show you, he'll hold up one in his finger, and then he'll show you the exact same thing, but the size of a giant building, right? And you've got all of these different layers. Well, if you get down and you look at this with a microscope, this is fractal. What you're seeing here large is what you're going to see small, and it gets smaller and smaller. There's an echo there. And then there's bark as well. And, there's all these different manifestations of how a tree can look. And so then he shows you the exact same thing on a much grander scale. Do you hear the sound also?
Yeah. Oh, no, not from the video.
Okay. Well, so there's so many different ways in which he shows this manifesting. And when you see these from the side, you see all the layering. And then in the middle, where the channels would be, where the sap goes in the trees, there's all these quartz lines that go through all of it. And the quartz can take any color from bone white all the way to all kinds of brilliant colors. And, basically we're everything that look at this. Tell me that isn't tree.
Yeah.
Right. And so here, all this white, this is sap, this is oozing out.
Sap,
so they're telling us that this is sedimentary layering, and they're going to go in this nice wavy curving thing. And this is all layered down and then pushed up through sedimentary activity. Through tectonic activity. I don't think so. This is very much biological. And this is why I coined the term biogeology. And mud flood doesn't explain this to me. I think that there's mud fossils, and then there's instant petrification, and then there's fossilization, and then there's permineralization and petrifaction. And all of these, they're different things, but they're all talking about the same thing. But they give us the petrified trees and the petrified pine cones, and they give us fossils, and then they tell us stories of dinosaurs, and we miss the stuff that's right here in plain sight. This is all sap. You can see the grain. Now you'll see portions in his footage where some of this stuff is like, you've got vitrification, so you can see evidence of cataclysm. You've got the quartz in there, and then you've got some sections that are not fully petrified. So it's like the transitions between wood and stone are still under in process. And that right there, that's like a 4 foot wide clump of wait a minute, go back to that. That's like a 4 foot wide clump of sap. It's just sitting there, gigantic quartz, and you can see it goes from bone white, and here it's mixed with other elements. So the sap is the lifeblood of the tree, and that petrifies to quartz. And that ties into my theories about titans, which is that fat, fascia, ligament, tendon, brain tissue, spinal cord, fascia, blood plasma, these are all made of essentially long chain fatty acids, and those are all crystalline at their core. Like if you take blood plasma and you suck all the water out of blood plasma, and the red blood cells are already gone, what you're left with is quartz crystal, essentially. And so that lines up perfectly. You know, all this stuff shouldn't be dovetailing to such perfection if it was just pareidolia and a bunch of people looking at stuff making crazy claims about it that aren't true. Here you can see the quartz going through. You clearly see the grain. This is exactly how it breaks. Remember the wood tree that I showed you at the very beginning? This is exactly that. And it goes to a much larger scale, which you'll see in a minute. So to me, this is some of the most important knowledge out there, and people are just not exposed to it. And they might see the tabletop thing, and then they're like, nah, that's far-fetched, and I can't get on board with that one. Or someone comes along and says, no, those are all mining waste. Or Roger Spur says, no, it's Devil's Tower is a giant Achilles tendon of a Titan, you know, and I find that to be far-fetched. This is far more likely. Look at the wood grain. You can still make out the original color of the wood.
Yeah, well, there's that video where he's walking and he's just pulling bits off, and you can literally see it looks like walnut tabletops, and he's just pulling them out of the rock.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got this is what I was doing with Andreas.
So what's the name of this channel again?
The channel name is Hangman1128, and he's got hundreds of hours of footage there, and you don't even have to really, you know, you could just put it on fast and just take in the visuals, and it'll start to make sense to you when you see it. But his explanation of things and his on-site research is just incredible. This is all quartz here. So it's and this is just one of many gems of videos that he
has.
I can't recommend his stuff enough. So if you can prove to yourself beyond a shadow of a doubt that the ancient trees were once a thing, then that changes everything, you know, we know about the nature of the realm. Look at this.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not wood, right? But this isn't petrified wood, as we would be told in the mainstream narrative.
They're taught as sedimentary rock.
There's another chunk of quartz.
This is crazy, isn't it?
And
how do we not see this? How do we not see this before? Well, I understand the Star Force, but the trees, I mean, I guess people, I don't know, right? How do we miss this?
Yeah, he's coming at this, like anyone who's been to my channel has been watching my videos for a long time. This is great. You see the small version, and then there's the big version right behind it. But anyone who's been watching my videos knows that I've tried to approach this, you know, to the best of my ability using the scientific method, looking at very empirically at these things. I've used microscopes. I've sliced stones open. You know, I'm on site looking at all this stuff. And this is exactly what he's been doing, but he's approached it very much from a faith-based. He's a Bible-believing person who believes that the Bible is the Word of God, and then, you know, he operates from that as his base understanding. But what he shows is undeniable. It is self-evident, and I'm going to just show some photos real quick since I'm on here sharing already.
I'm just going to grab a coffee. I'll be back.
Where's the trees? There we go. Here we go. So I showed these in in the live stream a couple nights ago, but this is Red Rock, I think. It's Boulder, Colorado. And this is where the trees would be coming up at an angle, and it would scoop upward to become the vertical lines of the trunk, like what you see with Devil's Tower. But this is a far larger structure, and this is just an outer edge or rim of this. He shows in his videos that you're looking at trees that are literally 10 miles across at their base, and this is just a small, tiny fragment of this broken tree. So this wasn't cut off; it was broken off. It was like fragmented at its base, and you can just see. How impressive this is. And if you get up close to this, you're going to see quartz lines, and it's just obvious what it is once you've got the eyes to see it. Here you can even make out the original color. How this happened, I don't know. Plasma apocalypse, some giant solar ejection, a coronal ejection, flash freezing.
Right? Flash freezing could be like what's it called? Dried by ice or by freezing. When you freeze, it sucks all the water out. Or the plasma catastrophe, or salt water too. Salt water is probably the biggest thing. If as soon as that gets in, then it preserves it, and then it gives it, through this cold fusion electrolysis, the means to replace different elements and metals within the cells and the structure.
Yeah, and that really would explain like a paramineralization kind of thing, but it wouldn't explain like the petrified organs that I've been presenting and making a lot of videos about, because I think that has more to do with heat or plasma. The freezing, I was in one of our KX's streams and asked him in the chat about flash petrification. He was saying freezing, which makes sense from like if things are going to freeze, it's going to change the structure of the tissues because of that expansion of the water within the tissue. Right. And that's going to crack things open and then allow that high mineral content water to, whoops, sorry, mute this. You're hearing that sound, right? Or no? The sound for the video you weren't, or were hearing? Okay. Yeah, so this is, I've already shown this, but he's got so many different manifestations of this stuff. This is that same spot here. So you can see the quartz line. Here's a big chunk of it just sitting there. and like right here, this, if you broke a small piece of this off, it would look exactly like that trunk I showed you at the very beginning. Except this is stone. And there's your quartz.
Right, and it's like they show it and admit it in the smaller, large trees compared to ours today, the petrified wood and trees, but it's like, how come they can't admit it for something that looks identical to it, has the exact same crystalline quartz and mineral deposit or makeup as the petrified wood that they do recognize? And
that section there is just amazing.
Right? Like, look at that. It looks like organic matter.
Yeah, tell me that isn't wood. I mean, come on. This looks like it burned.
Right? It looks like some coal and some petrified wood in between.
Yeah, and he was showing here, I think he says it in the video, that like you can feel that some of it is not fully petrified.
Right? Like, oh man, we need to get
this is and we're live streaming right now, so this is all in 720p. So I really encourage people to check his channel out, because if you see it in HD, high definition, 1080p, it's so, you can see so much detail and grain in this that you can't see here. And I just want to show this one also. This video has, like, here you can just see it's just like it's like a wood chip heap just sitting there. That's all stone. Look that, I mean,
Like,
here it looks like, and here, this is at the end looking in. So you see the layering, and you can see how it's going to break off in exactly that same fashion as the log at the beginning. And there, here we go. Look at this. This is not fully petrified, some of this. I mean, tell me that's not wood.
Right? Like, you can totally see the rings and everything in it. And see, that's what needs to be sampled and taken. And 100%, I desperately need a how do you say it?
Never totally spectroscopy machine. I don't know what, like, a low end level cost. So here he's showing with his hand. This is the outer ring. So he's looking from one side across a corner of this greater tree, and all of this space in the middle is like eroded, and you like, he'll walk along the trails and he'll point down in sections of the trails. You can see that there's lines in the ground. So even the grain is present on the ground down here in the flat areas. There's something else I was going to say about that. Yeah, the grain is present. I lost the other thing I was going to say, but it's just so fantastic, because it is what it is when you see it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it.
And like, this is actual petrified wood, and it looks
look at this,
what you're showing.
Look at that mountain, tree, mountain, tree. So for me, the mainstream geologists can say whatever they want and make up any kind of story they want. I'm not going to believe it, because that is clearly tree. And he's shown it on every level, from stuff you can hold in your hands to I was watching it. He's got a part 17 of a series that he did. He's got 3 parts to that, and part 1 was like an hour and a half long, and it's him just going through buckets and buckets of all kinds of stones that he's brought home, and showing all the different manifestations. I think here is where you can see the grain of the ground. That was what I was going to say before. So then, as it goes out away from the tree, I was showing, these are going up at angles. So what they teach us is tectonic activity is, I think, the actual original position of this structure as it swoops up and goes vertical to be one of these avatar trees, right? And so as this goes down the other way, it's gonna level out, and it's gonna go parallel with and underneath the ground. And so there's your canyons and your sedimentary layers that we're finding, because the layers are going to be the actual tree rings themselves.
No doubt.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So there's Devil's Tower is it Utah or Nevada or whatnot there? And didn't they find like a matching crystallized root structure below it of like the same? I get.
There's so many different theories about Devil's Tower. And I think Paul Cook did one where he was thinking it was geopolymer. I think he kind of jumped the gun on that one. I need to go back and watch it again. But when you look at this, it's so obvious that there's the potential for root structure around it, and the question is, where is the rest of the tree? This is exactly how trees grow and how they look. And when you see a stump and it's breaking down, this is exactly what it does. And so when you
like, that's identical to a tree stump. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the basalt columns never, like, they show up in all these places, and they're just this giant anomaly that definitely is not made from geothermal or magma the way they form and crystallize. Like, that never made sense to me. But
well, they say this is cooling lava, and I find that to be utterly ridiculous, because that's not how lava manifests. You know,
Right,
I've
exactly.
seen lots of
bubbly.
photos. I've seen lava fields. I used to live on Maui. You know, there's a big volcano there, Haleakala, and I saw the lava fields, and I never saw anything that looked even remotely like this, you know, that was coming out of lava. I'll bet if you get down in here, there's probably, you can see the quartz lines of the sap as well. But this you know, this ties into, this is a video that there was a video by Mr. MBB333 that came out like around the same time as the No Forests on Flat Earth video. He's got a bigger channel, and he was just exploring one of these structures in Madagascar that looks a heck of a lot like a tree trunk. And they would tell us this is volcanic activity, I would guess. But when you look at this thing, it's like 8 miles across, and it's got the appearance of root structures. And then you can see, like here, you can see it up close. This would be like the fronds of a cedar at the end, you know, and these are like the length of an Empire State Building, each and every one of these. So I was here looking at this the other day, and there's a whole bunch of these. And when you zoom out, you can see what appear to be the branches and these leaf structures. And then when you get in right next to this thing, again, you're going to get these, you know, gotta wait for it to fill in. They're going to call this basalt columns, right? They're going to say this is cooling lava, and it's all cooling. It's all looking just like organic growth of fibers of a tree, and it's all tilting up in this direction. And I think it makes a whole lot more sense that this was once tree than
Lava.
Lava.
I agree.
I mean, and then if you get up close to this and you see the same things that Hangman is showing, then I tell you, I guarantee you, it's tree. It's not lava. You know, the basalt columns are a little mysterious. I don't know exactly, you know, there's a lot of things it could be, but here's another one over here. You know, they're all over, and you can see what appears to be root structures. So I think that they're mining titans and they're mining the old trees. That's what the ancient world was built from. And a lot of it was probably shipped off world because, you know, where's the rest of all this material? It would do a whole lot more than just build star forts and star forts,
buildings and bricks and
buildings. Exactly. You know, and so, yeah.
I mean, see, this is the thing with all these different, you know, sort of theories we've got, that you can kind of start tying them all in together. You know, the trees that got cut down could have been, then the mining comes, and then you got giants turning them into things, and there's some kind of story there, but it's definitely an amalgamation of it. It's not, you know, no one's got 100% right at the moment, which is the problem we're having, right? Everyone's saying I'm right, which is really what they're saying is you're wrong.
Yeah, I've seen that meme before. That's a beautiful illustration.
So
now,
when it first came out, I swear I saw it from a US Geological Society, like it was like a seismic or something that they had done to come up with this image. And now all I can find is these debunked things saying that it's fake and it's not real and all of this. And it's like, oh, of course. Something
way
that would
back
prove
page, way back machine burn.
Yeah, well, this is the problem with the factions. Everyone's got their pet theory, and then they're calling everyone out because they believe differently instead of realizing, hey, probably all of these theories are true to some degree, and it depends on where you are and what you're looking at, and this is why there needs to be more cohesive, you know, research done where people are not pointing the finger at each other and calling each other names, and you know, and are open-minded to stuff that sounds absurd initially. I mean, you know, a lot of the people in this community believe the earth is flat. So like, you know, if you can buy that one, you know, why is it so hard to buy something like a giant tree or a giant titan, or, you know, it's like, it's silly. And
I mean,
so
and the other thing is,
wonder how much of it is controlled up.
And like you mentioned before, this stuff is all through the old books. It's all through the, you know, theosophy, the religious texts, everywhere. Now with that picture, I've heard that and I haven't looked into it, but I've heard that they're like crystal, like or Like all the root system is quartz. Yeah, quartz. Sorry, is that right? Does anyone
Well,
know,
what-
or are they tunnels?
Well, what
or
Hangman is showing is that all of the elements of the periodic table, or the vast majority of them, are all coming from the trees. So this gets into biological transmutation, right? So the whole idea that the bodies are creating elements, and they tell us that's happening in the heart of stars or in the heart of planets, where the gravitational pull is so intense that it's causing things to liquefy and become molten, and and that's giving rise to these heavier and heavier elements. And it starts with hydrogen, and but I think that's bull. It's weaving in threads of truth, but I think biogeology and biological transmutation makes a lot more sense. That much of what we're seeing out there is actually coming from great creatures, both plant life and moving creatures. And if you can hide that and sequester that knowledge, especially if that's what they're mining, then that's going to be a very valuable bit of information to keep people from waking up to, because you're going to know where all the valuable stuff is. You're going to find the gold veins and you're going to know where the arterial waters are and stuff like that.
This is a problem with Australia. I hit Australia and like instantly almost they knew where all the tin was, all the gold, all the iron. Like they just knew where all the mines were. And Australia is a massive place, and it's very hard to explore because of the terrain. But yeah, they just knew where everything was. So clearly, they've got.
Yeah, on that note, he talks about the Titans were reaching, gasping for air as they were drowned by the great floods, and so they're vertical in many cases. That's why he thinks Devil's Tower is an Achilles tendon. Right? Is that like the rest? Who knows what happened to the rest of the creature?
Yeah, what happened to the rest of it?
The point is that he talked about the heavy metals like gold are if in an upright walking creature are going to gravitate down to the feet. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the heart and things that are happening with the heart and other things could potentially explain the creation of these different substances, and that they would probably move all throughout the body, and they're part of all the the communication systems of the tree and of the nervous system. But even if you buy that, what he's saying is, like, after he made some videos about that, they were talking about the biggest gold discovery ever, I think, in South Africa somewhere, and it was straight down in this deep mine where there are these shafts that go way, 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 way down. And I've heard stories, because I went to South Africa once for the World Congress of Chiropractic Students when I was a student in school, and we were hosted for a dinner at the house of one of the other students, and his father worked in these mines and was actually an engineer in these mines. And he told us these crazy stories about elevator shafts that go down miles and miles.
Kidding something?
There's some kind of a.
Oh, is it out your window? Is it? Oh,
yes.
Okay, I thought 13th Monkey had finally got annoyed with his computer and was smashing on the desk.
No, we're all good.
We're all
good. I've had it with these bones and your trees and your nonsense, your elephants. Go away.
I'm wrong. I'm going to destroy all my research. Smash it away.
Yeah, so
now,
I'll just mute until it stops, because this is
wall. So I'll
all right. Crisis averted.
There's a teeny tiny little bit here. You can still see so much of the outline of it. A little bastion here.
Look at how much that's protruding out of the ground. That's crazy.
So are we in Russia now?
Yeah. And that runs
Russia,
into
nice mixed up.
the old fort, and then it continues right there, and then runs into some. It's almost like they've created some sort of a cul-de-sac. You've got the forest here, it runs into the fort. And you got a whole bunch of forests, and then right here got the remains of an old fort. You can see.
Oh wow! Yeah! Wow.
There.
Nice.
And then it continues on with more.
So,
Wow.
have you, what are your thoughts on the different shapes and functions of these stars? Because, clearly we have, like, we've got the pointer, we've got the four pointer stars, we've got the sort of half moon satellite star things, we've got the big city stars. Like, yeah, have you got any thoughts on all that kind of stuff?
Well, if you want to look at it from a quote unquote evolutionary standpoint, I think the whole shebang started with the mound builders in North America, because mounds and circular remnants are all over the earth, all over.
Yeah.
And
so do you see this?
People started running into those and started like expanding on it, because if you've got something that's working, it's on a nodal point of Earth. You've got all of the magnetic, the geomagnetic patterns going on. So you've got an ideal piece of ground to grow your stuff and to build your place. You start, quote unquote, fortifying your mound, right?
Mm.
And from there on, the whole thing expanded. Like, if you've got a 4-pointed star, it's a north, east, southwest type of thing.
Okay.
Or
Are all the four? I haven't even measured them. Are all the fours like cardinal pointed? Are they?
I don't know, because they don't work on Google Earth.
Oh, okay.
If you've got a map of the
Okay, I see what you mean. Because it's not the right.
The ley lines don't align at all.
Of course. Yeah, because it's
because Earth,
the wrong shape.
It's the wrong shape. Even if they line up perfectly, ball, right? Which I'm not of the ball party, but it's not this ball. It makes absolutely no sense. Like,
have you seen that?
This is stuff from. They even admit that this is drawn in, right? So what Google Earth basically is a gigantic collection of square images.
Yeah, or you can see that.
They find a way to fold that.
Have you seen that? Yeah, see right there. See, that's a dark elf face. Go zoom out.
This is the North Pole.
Yeah, and zoom out and look what they've got there. They've got the face of a dark elf at the North Pole.
This is what you get when you start stitching square images together, and you put them on the Pole.
South Pole
and the
looks
dark
the same
elf,
way.
like, is the tree of Yggdrasil, which was the North Pole, right? And the dark elves. So if you zoom, see that right there. See that? That's sideways looking down. See that points his nose. Side of his. So see that? You can see an nose, an eye socket, and ear up the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But there's also, if you keep rotating to the left. Rotate a little more. This is the thing. You can get into pareidolia. Go up just a touch now, up a little bit more. You can see a guy. Yeah, just just move it up, the screen up just a tiny bit. The whole thing, just straight up. There. Okay. So there, if you look at all the dark space, that looks like a dude with a hat looking to the left.
Looking the other way with a funny nose. Right.
So it's like you can look at this stuff all day long, and that's you might be right about a dark elf, and it might be even put there intentionally by the people on Google Earth as a like, I know,
right? It's just kind of interesting that
but it might also be pareidolia, and that's where people
intentionally design pareidolia in those cases.
Yeah, it's a survival technique. So pattern recognition and recognizing patterns very quickly, so you can respond as needed when you're out in nature and maybe be faced with a predator or something. So it's great, but it's also great from an artistic perspective. It's a beautiful talent that some people have and can actually use to create art. So, but if you're going to make claims about things, you want to have a little more than just it looks like a this, so it must be a this.
Oh, come on.
Well,
that's 100%,
man. By that logic.
Tree of Yggdrasil, North Pole, come on, that's enough proof.
What was it?
I'm making a video.
St. Bernard puppies.
Actually, I've already done a video on it.
Well, I just discovered Atlantis it was a dog sniffing Iceland today. Go there, Mike. You can Let's see the
I
way
want to
my
show
brain works.
Africa as a Saint Bernard puppy that is trying to get a cookie from Spain, but it's not getting it because it's all over the floor.
Ah.
So then, what
Gatstar.
about the the famous dragon then, like Pareidolia?
Which you mean Roger's dragon?
Yeah,
Oh,
the top of Africa.
Possibly there, it could be pareidolia, but the interesting thing is like Plato wrote about it in one of his books. He wrote about
I didn't know that.
the Leviathan in conflict with the behemoth, and it actually talks about it taking place near the Straits of Gibraltar, and yeah, and then the Book of Enoch I mentioned earlier, it talks about the size of the Titans being 3,000 ells, which comes to roughly a mile tall. So Roger's dragon is 900 miles long. The elephant that I've done all the research on, the Unveiling a Titan series here in Spain, there's 6 parts to that series. That elephant is only about 3 miles long. So I see that as a fractal level up, and then probably the continents are parts of beasts that are maybe floating in the great waters of the deep or something like that. And we only see portions of the body. So we're like, trying to make sense of things. Now that is definitely not pareidolia. That's a dude with a really long nose. 100%.
Hilarious.
Show him the dog sniffing Iceland. Got to get the angle right though.
So we all might actually be living on the back of a giant turtle.
Dead animal, right? That's just gross.
Well, and then the turtle had 4 elephants on its back, right, for the cardinal directions. So maybe
that's right.
And then we've got these myths of like Ganesh, from the Hindus.
That turtle shell has how many? Doesn't it have a certain number of hexagons as well? That's lines up with something astrological. I can't remember. There's something there. Someone in this chat will be smarter than I hope.
Yeah, I hate everybody in the chat. Hope you're enjoying it.
Yes, hello. Sorry, we don't mean to be ignoring you. We're just very interested.
You have been lost in pareidolia.
Yeah.
Doesn't that look like a serpent?
Well, going back to Roger's thing, and this is one of the frustrations I have, is he makes a lot of claims about things to be unimpeachable, 100% proof, like the moon being a tendon ball, and he's, every other video he makes is about the dragon in the Sahara, and he's talked about it over and over and over again. But what I haven't seen are videos with boots on the ground, footage, looking at like actual bits and pieces and comparing that. But even so, like we don't know what the tissues of a dragon would be like if a dragon that was 900 miles long. We can hypothesize. But that's why I think like caves are incredibly important, because if you do have titans, then you're going to have the eye sockets, you're going to have ears, perhaps you'll have mouths. There's some pretty interesting photos out there of different mountains that actually have caves right where the eyes should be. I can't believe there aren't videos of people like on the ground going into those caves yet. I don't even know where some of those places are, but that's what I've been anticipating would happen as people start to explore it more. But instead, you just get lots of pictures of mountain, mountain ranges from a particular angle that look like a face or a giant lying on its back, and everyone thinks that, oh, that's a titan. It's like, okay, well, if it was, you should be able to go find eye tissue and other kinds of, and you look at the breakdown of bone and see how that mountain is eroding, and that should match anatomy and histology. And that's exactly what I've done in the Unveiling a Titan series, but nobody else has done that. And Roger has mysteriously not bothered to mention any of that research to any of his following, which is odd because nobody has shown more in support of his theses when it comes to the Titans than I have. So
right? It's like you'd think
very
that
stuff going on.
Research.
Big thank you to CJTV for your contribution. Sorry, Ben.
But the fact that like
you've done, am I here? Am I breaking up?
Yeah, you're here, but I just didn't hear what you said.
Okay,
I was just saying thank you, CJTV, for your kind donations. And now you can talk, Bernie.
All right. But yeah, why I have so much respect for like you putting out this like the Titan and the Mammoth and all of that, the scientific and biological and geological and just your meticulous manner in going about it and dissecting it all and finding all of the evidences and not just speculating but actually putting out conclusive evidence after evidence after evidence. And then it's like I just from the perspective of Roger over at Mud Fossil, it's like you'd think that if there's Mike Stellium7 would be this potential huge ally of proving your point and your case and your claims, or at least part of it, that you would encourage it and embrace it. And yet it's sad that he does not.
That's what I would have thought would have happened. And I've reached out to him many, many times, and I have a long, long history of our communications, which, you know, I get so much flack from people because they're like, well, you haven't mentioned Roger from Mud Fossil University. I saw a you know, someone in the chat just now talking about it. I mean, but sometimes the tones and the things that people are saying, like I'm supposed to like bow and pay homage to Roger in every single video I make. Well, guess what? From the very first video I made, I was doing a shout out to Roger Spur, and in many, many videos and many interviews since then. I'm not going to sit around and go, oh, Roger, he brought us so much. I think he's actually holding the community back. He brought out a bunch of stuff, and he's got a bunch of beliefs about things that he's calling unimpeachable evidence that he has no evidence for, you know, other than his opinion and what he believes. And because he's this kindly old professor that's been streaming now for 5 or 7 years, he's got this cult-like following. People are just like, oh, everything Roger. And they come to my channel, and they're constantly accusing me of trying to steal his work. And I'm like, no, I've been giving him shout outs from the very first video I ever made. If you went through any of my material before you started criticizing me, you would know that, but you haven't, have you? You know, so they're just like assholes that come and say things that they don't know anything about it, you know? And
that's the scientific method, isn't it? Like you working off other people's things. I mean, I didn't discover star forts or Tartaria or anything really. I just look into things that other people have found, and that's how we move forward.
Yeah, and then someone will criticize you for just someone will criticize you for just scooping up other people's work and not doing anything unique of your own or something. It's like, okay, you're missing the point, people. The channel name is Autodidactic. Do you even know what those words mean? Do you know what he says at the beginning and end of every video? It's like, hello, you know, we're all trying to learn this stuff. We've all been misled about a whole lot of stuff, whether it happens to do with matters of health or matters of cosmology or matters of history, mythology, all these things. So it's like, you know, people need to be open-minded and stop being so quick to jump the gun and criticize or call people out as being agents or shills. Someone called me CIA yesterday. I'm like, if I'm CIA, I'm the lowest paid CIA agent in history.
Man.
I promise you
You
that.
might get a CIA paycheck.
It's just ridiculous.
I don't know if I want to sell my soul, but at the same time, I'd take a donation. But
yeah,
and if you're taking donations or you know have ads on your channel, you're a shill, right? Because you're trying to make money from truth. It's like, hello, people.
My God.
It's a meritocracy. Support things you love, or they go away. You know.
Yeah.
Like this is work. The amount of streaming we're doing, video productions, putting it all together, like it's a full-time job. And
it's a job,
like,
man.
are we supposed to be homeless or what? You know, and it's like,
well, I wonder if those people who say that, I mean, are they willing to go to work and not get paid for the next year? Probably not. Bloody shills.
I got $7,000-8,000
just working, I don't know, to feed their family. God, shills, I tell you.
Yeah, did you hear what Mike said there? He's got 70,000 hours of mapping. And he can't even, I mean, I've done some live streams and I've said any donations from today's live stream will go to 13th Monkey for a new system, because he can't even stream like he's doing now and see what other people are showing on their screen if they go to share video or something like that, because the system can't handle it. So it's like, you know, he's been doing all of this on an old computer for a long time. And, you know, where's the love in the community? People are so quick to criticize, but they're not very quick to reach into their pockets for this content that they're consuming on a daily basis. How much do you pay to go to the movie? How many times do you buy a coffee? How many of your content providers are you actually financially supporting, you people who are very quick to criticize? You know, so take that.
And of course, we're not talking to all you beautiful people out there. There's just some.
Of course not. Yeah, no, there's wonderful people in every one of these chat rooms, and they're not who I'm talking about.
Exactly.
It's just that there's a lot going on behind the scenes at the moment, guys. We're all getting attacked. I mean, and it's gone to the point where literally people have gone and made websites about some of the creators. Like, it's getting pretty crazy out there. So there's a bit going on, but.
How bored do you have to be, right? I mean, it's like you said earlier on in the show. If you're not interested in the content, go away.
Go away. Go watch Netflix. We don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say the exact same words. Go watch Netflix. Yeah. So Guy, you know, on this note, just last night, let's see if I can find it real quick here. Where is it? I haven't responded to him yet, but
walls. In China.
No, I can't find it, of course. No.
Walls.
Oh, hello, DC. Caribbean.
So all of that yellow line.
600
This is, by the way, as a sort of a disclaimer, that yellow line is not my work. I got this folder from somebody else. Published on the Google Earth forums. So if you want the yellow line stuff, so none of the markers, none of the red stuff, but the yellow line stuff is just available on the Google Earth forums. And from there, I started working because there's a whole lot more than just the one wall.
Yeah, so just on the note of this thing that I was talking about with Roger Spur, just yesterday, I get this one. Mud Fossil University started all of this, and so I'm to the point now where I'm just like, and that's what I responded with.
Started all of what?
Yeah, started all of, you know, it's like,
did he write the Book of Enoch?
He's not familiar with my work. He doesn't know how my work is distinct from Roger's, that I brought additional discoveries to the table that also need to be discussed and fit into the bigger picture. Instead, I'm just supposed to like spend half of every video, I guess, talking about Roger and all that he's done for all of us, you know. And so I said and his response was, give credit where credit is due, instead of rebranding it to biogeology and not even giving the guy an honorable mention. Kind of weak. Well, I'm past the honorable mention stage, and now I'm calling Roger out for ignoring all of the work that I've done and just continually speculating to high heaven about a bunch of stuff that he really doesn't have evidence for, and, you know, and claiming unimpeachable evidence and being silent as a mouse when it comes to all of the research on my channel. So those who want to like champion Roger and you know, think about that.
Yeah, take that. Thank you, Isabella. But there's everyone, like I said before, everyone's working off everyone else. I mean, Roger, like I said, he didn't write the Book of Enoch, right? Like these you know, times and things have been mentioned long before Roger. You know, and yeah, exactly. And he does quote other people. So, and like I said, you know, if that's the deal, then, you know, I'm the biggest culprit of all, right?
Well, you're a selective sifter, right? You're a syncretist. This is another thing.
I've
always been a syncretist, but I'd never heard of syncretism until Santos Bonacci, to bring him back up again. You know, and to me, it just made perfect sense, because when I was studying mythology, I was studying religion and, you know, all kinds of different subjects in college, I was always like, okay, take what resonates and move on and try and put the pieces of the puzzle together, because nobody's got the whole puzzle. And that's what we should all be doing, and trying to learn and be open-minded to all this stuff.
That's why I was confused. I didn't get syncretism for a while, because I just thought it was thinking.
Yeah, well, it's a lost art for a lot of people.
And I actually got to throw out that I first heard, and it was about 10 years ago, it was Michael Tellinger down in South Africa.
Yes.
Showing the stone art, the giant crystallized bones, the biogeology, as you call it, Mike.
Yeah.
And that he actually came before Roger with
Yeah.
his mud fossil
Yeah,
for
channel
sure.
and universe.
Did you see him on Leak Project this morning, Bern?
100%.
Yeah.
Who?
Did you see where he was talking about Adam's calendar and the whatever you call them, the compound things down there? He was talking about them like we talk about star forts. He's like, oh, we've mapped the cymatic frequencies, they're on ley lines and blah blah. And I'm going, what? And they kind of look like an ancient form of the stars. They're just more rounded than pointy. It's kind of interesting. So yeah, he's obviously a bit more of the older ilk. He's kind of a bit of a crossover. He wasn't really with the Graham Hancocks. He kind of went off sideways a bit, but he's still very Anunnaki, space aliens.
I have huge respect for Michael Tellinger, and I've
He's
been watching
great. I
his
love
stuff
him.
for years.
Yeah.
I came across
Like,
the video where he's
thank
showing
you.
a heart.
Adamant. Sorry. Thank you.
I came across a video where he's showing a heartstone after I'd already started putting out videos about the stones that I had found. So I didn't know about that. He was creating a whole mud fossil university. I'm sorry, not a mud fossil university, a mud fossil museum. And he and Roger Spur were in contact until Tellinger did a video about flat Earth. He started doing a few different streams about his exploration into cosmology and the things that he was discovering. And then he got so much backlash, not just from Roger, because Roger is a staunch globalist as far as the heliocentric model goes, but a whole lot of backlash from a lot of other people. And then he came out with a video that was like 10 minutes long, and it said, "Why I won't talk about flat Earth anymore." So I respect him for that, because he came out with it. He said what he thought, and then he's like, "And these are the reasons I'm not going to talk about it anymore." So he had a lot going on with his one world village or whatever it's called, and he's got a lot of irons in the fire. I think he's a great guy, and I've reached out to him a couple of times, but I've not heard back.
I was Biggs was saying this morning that you should reach out. So I don't know, maybe I will in the next few months. I'm pretty busy, but I wouldn't mind having a chat with him too. Because I think if we can get some of those names that are still, they're still big in the, the mainstream alternative history, if you want to call it that. If we can get, into the area and I mean, we could really blow this subject apart, really blow it up.
Right, and especially, here we go. We'll show one of.
Nice.
Wow.
This is one I just found yesterday in the river bottom. This is the front, and you can see the line there for the intraventricular sulcus, that quartz line. That's where the folds of the heart meet. You can see the indentations at the top for where the aorta and the vena cava went in, and then on the back side, you can make out the sulcus lines. This is what I show in the videos. I show people how to recognize the anatomy. This is so repeatable, and it's so incredibly specific. And I can show you example after example of this pattern that repeats itself in the stones. This is pink and like flesh, and a lot of them have at the bottom. This is a very specific feature. They have this spiral, because when the heart goes into contraction, which it does on death, right? It's got a spiral contraction. So if you look at the heart from the bottom, you're going to get that propeller-like twist, and many of these that have these specific features have this twist. And I could show you heart stones all day long. I'm probably going to do it maybe a live stream tomorrow or the next day. I've got a bunch of them laid out on the ground over there, but they're constantly different shape. I'm sorry, different color, different size. It's repeatable. It's the same patterns
everywhere. And I mean,
and like
we say it right.
There's the blood vessels at the top.
Exactly.
There's your sulcus line there, right?
And then
the back will be flattened. Yeah, sorry, Bernie, I just stepped on you. The back will be flattened or slightly curved inward. The bottom will have that twist to it, and it'll be shaped like a heart. Now, they don't have to be shaped like this, because there's lots of different kinds of hearts depending on the species. They can be 3-chamber, they can be 4-chamber. They can be in different stages of contraction. Some hearts are round and globular, and others are long and narrow, and it just depends on the species. But when you learn the overall pattern and you're able to recognize the front and the top of the stones, it starts to be predictable, where you can see part of a rock and recognize maybe the little twist or some other portion. And I've done this. I pulled them out of the ground predicting what the rest of the rock was going to look like, and then it looks that way. So this is definitely a non-reported phenomenon in geology.
Well,
they tell us these are hunks of clay that have just magically formed like this. And there's your top and your lines again for the sulfur.
Well, they're not lying. They do say that man came from clay in the Bible, don't they? But I mean, we've got that saying, right? Heart of stone. They've got a heart of stone.
Oh, there's a zillion. In the live stream I was doing last night, there was somebody who was just throwing in lyric after lyric from all kinds of songs. You know, we talk about all kinds of things. Like I theorize maybe the continents might have been, you know, Titans or parts of Titans, and we talk about the heart of Africa, right? So sometimes they're really plain, but they still have this very specific underside curve and propeller twist. So tell me that's just random rock breaking off and rolling around a river bottom that's forming these incredibly specific reoccurring patterns. So the more I add to the list of heart features that I'm finding in a rock, the less likely it should be to find a rock like that. And that's where you start getting into a preponderance of evidence. I don't have an experiment. I don't have a variable I can manipulate, because these things are already what they are. But I can show correlations between anatomy, and I can show that from an odds perspective that
there's too many.
It just doesn't make any sense. Possibility of it.
Yeah. And again, I just found this one yesterday. It was literally the first rock my eye landed on as we went from the road down into the river bottom to cross it, because we were on a walk. And this was literally the first rock I found. So, I mean, how specific is that? This is like a 10 on the Wilkerson scale, right? There's like all of these different anatomical features that the heart can or the stone can exhibit from heart anatomy. And the more of those features you have, you know, the more likely it is that what you're holding in your hand was once a heart. And
it's bizarre.
You know,
I mean, we just haven't even thought about this stuff. I mean, people still think it takes thousands of years to fossilize things, right? So, you know, all this information we've got, it makes, you know, the information you're showing to most people impossible, right? Because they're thinking, what do you mean? It takes thousands, hundreds of thousands of years for things to fossilize. But we know that that's not true, right? You know, we've got examples of that. So
see all of those down there. Those are all examples of the exact same thing. There's a couple there that I'll just grab two of them.
And of course, the heart isn't even a pump, right? It's a tube.
The heart is a rope. The heart is it's the myocardioventricular band. Yeah. Which last time I was on with you, I went into detail about that. That's an interesting, a very interesting thing that most of us has never been taught. You know, so again, you might think, oh, this is a real easy shape to find, and rocks just are going to erode that way. But when you add the double indentations at the top and the curved underside and the twist at the bottom and all these things, then it gets very, very specific, and it doesn't make any sense that Mother Shipton's cave is an example of instant petrification, or not instant. It takes months there.
A couple of months.
Mineral waters, these mineral waters pouring over different objects and encasing them first.
And like everything too. If you Google the pictures, like there's like stuffed toys, which is a big one, but then there's also a bicycle. You know, there's all these different materials, and they've all been fossilized just because fossilization is not. All fossilization is changing the mineral content of things, right? So it's all got to do with the mineral content of the water that these things come in contact with. That's all fossilization is.
Yeah, and you know, and how it's going to end up looking is going to depend on what happened to it and how long it took, and whether it was like completely petrified, or maybe it was petrified enough to maintain its shape and not be eaten away by larvae and bacteria, and then later permineralization finishes off the process, you know, through some kind of a mud flood or something like that. But the big question I always get is, why would the organs be found outside the body? Where's the body?
Yeah, exactly.
And I've answered that question many, many times, and I have videos on it. I call it boiled egg theory, and it's the basic idea that the body is being annihilated from the outside in, and as that's happening, these are contained in fatty sacs, and they're floating inside of a bigger fatty sac, which is the chest cavity. Your heart is there, your lungs, your other organs, and so as I believe it's major heat or electricity or something supernatural, or maybe some kind of a petrification technology. But there's a faceting to the front that many of them have, and it just, it's so incredibly specific and repeatable. And mainstream science would say, yeah, you're just cherry picking, right? You're just going out and finding rocks that fit your harebrained theory. And I would say, well, yeah, it's cherry picking because it kind of has to be. Here comes our little fiesta. But so this one I found it was face down in the mud, and it was buried 2/3 up, and I could see the shape, and I could see the line, or it's the reverse, the line, the sulcus line. And so I'm like, okay, that's the back side, and I can see it, and I pulled the thing out, and the front looked exactly as I expected it to look. So that's a repeatability, a predictability. So you don't have a manipulable variable, and maybe you do, Bernie, when it comes to something like your magic in the lab there. But if someone else could figure out how to do this, just like Paul is figuring out how to do geopolymers, perfect guy for it, right? The name like that.
Exactly.
Geopolymor.
What also would be interesting would be to, out of those heart stones, like a few of the ones that you're most convinced on, to get samples of what the chemical makeup of it is, just to be able to then come up with a more cohesive theory of how those minerals or metals get into it and petrify it.
Do you know the saga that surrounds that exact topic? So Harry Hubbard reached out to me because he's got a big background in geology as an lifelong amateur geologist. And one of his good buddies, a guy named Frank Aon, owns a laboratory in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And Harry had come across my videos as a result of his massage therapist was a sub of mine who had seen a bunch of my videos. And she's like, you got to check this out. This is really interesting stuff. And so he thought it was interesting, and looked into it a little bit, and then talked to his friend. And, they were like, yeah, it'd be interesting to do an analysis on some of these rocks, because this isn't a subject that I'm familiar with. And, they both from the beginning thought it was total BS, as they admitted later in correspondence and communication that was recorded between them. So yeah, I sent off over a dozen rocks. I made a video of the rocks and showed what I was sending them beforehand, and 360 rotations of each of the samples, so that people could see what was going to be tested and how that matched the examples. I didn't send my best specimens, obviously, because I didn't know if I'd ever see the rocks again. And so I sent them, and then I got, I made a video about it called Paradigm Crushed. And so the first video just before that is an exciting research day, because I was excited about sending these to them, because I thought I was finally going to get some laboratory analysis, spectroscopy, a breakdown of the molecular, components of each of these stones, so we could start to look at that and compare it to actual fleshy hearts. What do we know about the chemical composition of a heart, and what are the different materials that are in that, and in what percentages, and does that match in any way, shape, or form what we're finding in the stones? Now, I wouldn't expect there to be DNA present, because this is petrified stuff. So I would think that any of the molecules and the proteins would be completely denatured, through the cataclysmic process, whatever that was. But I would also expect that there's some kind of a transmutation that's taking place as it goes from flesh to stone. And so probably there's not going to be a direct correlation as far as the chemistry of the two samples, but there should be a correlation, at least when you look at the periodic table and you see that, well, this was once calcium or calcite or whatever, and maybe it switched to some other molecule. And then you could look at the breakdown and you could see that this is not exactly the same, but look, all of the differences are one atom or, you know, one electron away on the periodic table or something like that. Then you've got undeniable proof combined with all of the macro, micro anatomy, the visual, the pattern, the repetition of the pattern. That would be a slam dunk. And that's what I thought I was going for when I sent the samples off, and it didn't go that way. And my response to what they did in their research, it took 3 hours because 90 minutes of that video was conversations between Hubbard and I, which were recorded, and between Aon and Hubbard, which were also recorded. And they made a lot of claims about those stones and about what I had or hadn't done. And it took a lot of time to address every single point, because it was very important to address them, to say, is it true what they're saying? And does it make sense when you see it for what it is on screen and you look at, well, this is a polycalcitic conglomerate cobble. That's what Frank Aon concluded that each one of these is. This is a lump of clay that got in a larger substrate, and with lots of pressure on its way to becoming metamorphic, that lump of clay has compressed down into something that's, I think about a 5 or 6 on the hardness scale. It's not like diamond or sapphire or diorite. But it's a very hard stone, and that this was originally a lump of clay, and it formed, and then because of the water action in the rivers and tumbling around and abrasion and a breakdown from the mineral content of the waters, that it just naturally took on this shape, and it does it over and over again by the thousands, right? So that was the assumption. And the other thing that doesn't make sense about that is if you look at the rivers and you look at the mud flow, you find these rocks everywhere. You find them, but where you don't find them is on the mountains. Oh, well, that makes sense, because the mountains are breaking down. It's going to roll down the hill and it's going to erode, and then it gets in the river bottom. The water action finishes the process. Well, guess what? 2 different completely kinds of stone on all the mountains here in the region versus what's in the river bottoms and what's in the valleys and the foothills. They're not the same stone. There are no transitions between them. It goes from broken chunks of limestone, which I've documented extensively in my research on my channel, and how those correlate to bone, how they correlate to the different manifestations of the histology of a titan. And then I've looked at these rocks, and there is no in between. It's one or the other. So that whole erosion story is bullshit. That's not what's happening. These rocks were deposited there from elsewhere, or they are the remains of the living creatures that were destroyed in cataclysms, and they go from tiny to giant or titan. And I think I have plenty of evidence to show that that's at the very least a plausible theory. If you're not stuck in the heliocentric model where you think that gravity would have crushed these creatures and there's no possible way that they could support their own weight. I think that's not accurate, because I don't think that gravity, as we're told and taught, is actually what's really going on.
Indeed. There you go. Right. And hello to Zal and everyone in the chat. And Delicious, I didn't say hello to you. Haven't seen you in ages. Hello. Sorry, you can talk now, Bernie.
I've been talking to Harry Hubbard a little bit, and we were going to have him on to discuss his Illinois cave discovery, but then it's like I found out that he actually is a goldsmith and has been making replicas of them the whole time, and heard all sorts of different stories, and it's like it muddies the waters. And then I've heard that he's also like caused different drama with a bunch of different people, and now Mike, there's another case with you that it's like I just don't know if his deal is, if he's a psyop.
Let's not go there.
If people want a real education about what can happen when somebody like me with these ideas brushes up against the mainstream thinking when it comes to high level potential gatekeepers, or at least people who are very much locked in a paradigm and can't ponder something outside of that, because it might start to cause, the whole foundation of their belief system to start to unravel in different ways. Whether or not it's premeditated, intentional, or just like unconscious and they're paradigm blind, or whether there are agendas, I don't know. But they were insinuating at one point in the conversation that I might have been in this for the money. And they offered me money up front for the stones, and I turned it down. I said, no, all I'm interested in is the lab results, because that's what's most interesting and valuable. And they assume that I'm in this because I'm trying to make money. And at no point have I made any money from this. This has cost me a ton of money. So that insinuation was rude. It was false. And if they had gone into my research at all, which they didn't appear to, or at least they claim not to, then they would have found that a lot of the things that they were saying are not true. And I had already shown that to be the case. So the thing about Hubbard and Aeon, like Aeon is he's got the record for appraising or authenticating the most expensive piece of jade artifact ever sold. It's like $8 million authentication, $8 million appraisal value on this product that was sold. So he's the kind of guy that billionaires go to like verify the authenticity of different artifacts. So actually, if someone is capable of creating an artifact and they got a good friend who's authenticating our artifacts, who's in a better position to make money?
Yeah, right.
Right? So
yeah, well, I mean,
so
it's a funny thing. Like
saga.
a lot of people think I make tons of money too. I mean, it's not like I don't know what 100,000. If I had millions of subs, then yeah, fair enough. But
I've been at this now for 4 years. I've spent thousands of hours, just like Mike has, hunting the star forts and everything else. And if you look at my YouTube revenue from the beginning of my channel till now, it's 1,500 euros. It's literally wouldn't cover my clinic and home expenses for half a month. So to say that I'm making any money off of this is absolutely ridiculous. And every once in a while I get a donation. I'm very appreciative of them. But
we should be making money. That's the thing. We've got to. And that's what we've got to think of, because this is work, and if people don't appreciate that it's work and takes time and money, well, they don't have to watch. But I mean, yeah, we do need to we thought, a lot of us thought, oh, well, you can make a bit of money on YouTube, but clearly that's not the case, because they won't. They're just stealing our views and our money.
And the algorithms. I shot up to 17,000 and plateaued for 2 years.
Mine didn't move. Yeah. Mine didn't move for 9 months. Well, it went up 1,000 in 9 months, and then in 10 days it went up 16,000 subs. And then it stopped, and that was 3 months ago, and it hasn't even gone up another 1,000 since then. So something happened to the algorithm.
Somebody accidentally turned the knob, and they're like, "Oh shit, shouldn't have done that."
Yeah, exactly. Quick, turn it back off.
You want the truth to get out there.
I know, right? But it's just such a scam. So yeah.
Well, we're making use of the platforms to the best of our ability in order to share.
Well, yeah, we need to start.
That's so important.
People off.
Yeah, unfortunately, you get a lot of, with the suppression from Google, which they admitted in Congress they were going to do, and then they did, and all the algorithms control from, whether it's from the elections or from the COOF and all of the stuff that happened over the last couple of years. It's so obvious, all of these reputable people that have been yanked with, people with lots of letters after their name and have been suppressed in a variety of different ways. So, it's great that we're still reaching as many people as we are, and can wake up a few people along the way. But it's nowhere near what it would be like if they hadn't put those algorithms into place, and they're clearly there, because I'm getting record view counts, record watch time, and really high like ratios on each of my videos. And
me too. That's the
thing,
the
sub count is going like this, and then we'll even drop a little bit. And then drop. And then when I don't do anything, it's almost like YouTube is trying to lure me back in. It gives me a few subs here and there, and I used to get these spikes, and the spikes would last for a couple days, and anytime I did a video, there was a bunch of new, people. I get almost no comments anymore on the videos. Like I was getting hundreds. So anyone who thinks that there isn't censorship taking place is naive. It's happening in a big way. So why would they censor this of all things? You know, you can go around thinking, you know, you're a man who can get pregnant, and they'll support you all day long. But talk about rocks.
Yeah, right. Can't talk about rocks and old buildings. Who dropped the wrench? What's all this Campbell stuff? Is that why your reception is so good? And hello first man. Hello everyone who just said hello to me, and I don't know what's going on. I'm confusion. I've been online since like 8 o'clock this morning. I did a live event today.
Way to be.
And Mike and I have been up since 7.
Yeah, well, that's your time, right?
That's my fault. And kind of Campbell's a little bit.
What's the time there now, Mike? Is it your morning still, or
it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost.
So you still awake there, Mike? Mike?
Yes, Mike.
I'm here.
He's still there.
I'm still zooming in and out.
So what's okay. So
he's just self-maintaining. So if you ignore him, he just goes and maps star forts. He's our little star fort mapping monkey.
Just how are there so many? Like it's nonstop.
Well, this is. I mean, that's the next big question: is how did they get all this done, and how did they, you know, clean all the cities out and all this? It's almost like it's a program, right?
No, it's just a psyop.
Sorry. Yeah, none of it exists. Sorry. Whoops.
Just Kremlin agents, all right? Jeez.
It's the Russian Chinese people that you got to worry about. That would be the Mongolians.
Putting them everywhere, right? I mean, bloody. Autodidactic. You mentioned YouTube. Let your sub rise. So I said, the YouTube monkey must have dropped the wrench. Oh yes, okay, got you. Yeah. I mean, it was literally like that. It was like someone had pushed the wrong for like. It was almost 2 weeks, and they just went wee, and they went just pushed it, and just went stop, and it just stopped instantly. It was just bizarre. But I mean, it just shows you, right? And this is the thing, like every month, I apparently get between, I think it's like 2,200 and 3,000 subs, but it takes me 9 months to go up 1,000 subs.
Yeah. I once had like 150 subs just disappeared overnight, and it wasn't following some atrocious video where people are like, I'm not going to listen to this guy anymore. You know,
you gotta use social blades and keep checking and keep taking pictures. It's what I've been doing, and if we get enough evidence together, we can eventually launch a class action lawsuit.
And we sue YouTube, and we get paid that way.
They're stealing the views. They're preventing us from
stealing the
growing.
revenue.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, the revenue. The views are the revenue. It's insane.
I mean, if we all had our revenue, we could be out there traveling around with better equipment. You know, we could be doing such a better job. But so they're stopping everything. They're stopping the research. They're obviously censoring us. So they need to be taken down. I think destroyed. Hi YouTube. So that's what I think.
Anyway. I reached 3,340 subs 2 weeks ago, and then it minus 10 subscribers a day for a week, and then it left me at 0 for a week. And then yesterday or 2 days ago, we made that video where I showed how I should be getting 70 subs a day, and then all of a sudden now I'm back up to 3,340. But
really?
Of that.
Weren't you like 1,000 a month ago or something?
I was at 1,500, and then shout out to Dutch since he shared my channel. He made a post sharing my channel, and I literally doubled my subscribers in a day. I went from like 1,600 to 3,200, and then YouTube deleted his post that was sharing my channel. He was like, "What the F is going on?" And they deleted his post sharing my channel.
Really?
No way.
That's bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Well, that's almost as good as them censoring Google Earth, you know, on the mountain. We didn't talk about this time, but we've talked about it before. You know, when I did the second video on the eye of Montgo, and then I did
They filled the eye.
Yeah, I did a third video on the ear, and then the fourth video was about the histology of the mountain, the different tissues and all the different ways in which that's manifesting there. But after I did that fourth video, I went back into live stream with Rodrigo Ferrari Nunez, and I was going to show him what I had been looking at hundreds of times before on my own, and even in streams. And the eye and the ear were all blocked out. So that was interesting. And you could go back in time and see that it didn't used to be that way. But even if they had changed that, I had all the original footage from my first three or four videos where I was showing how I was actually zooming in from afar and coming in really slow and recording in HD, so that it was almost like drone footage that I filmed. So there's some really nice footage of zooms all around the mountain that were in those first videos. Can't do those anymore because the mountain is now different. It's just
I can't. So many pictures have disappeared. Like, I have to go to Wayback Machine now to find. You used to be able to do a simple search and you get all these pictures. Now they're just gone. But yeah, everyone go and check out Dutch Synth. He's got a video with a massive star fort that he found. So check out Dutch Synth. It's a good channel. And also make sure that you do go and subscribe to 13th Monkey and Stellium7 if you haven't already.
Yeah, and Dutch Synth, if you've not seen my channel, check it out, because you might find some stuff interesting.
And mine. Where's my shout out, Dutch Synth? Come on.
With Dutch Synth,
I want to double my subs.
But I've been talking with him, and like he had the YouTube deleted all of his videos that had anything to do with star forts, anything.
They took them down.
Polymer. YouTube took it all down on him. And like,
are you serious?
I don't. It's like I don't know exactly what all I'm allowed to say public, so I'm just gonna stop it at that.
His channel is too big for that material.
And eventually the interview will happen, but he wants to talk privately first. And
Sounds like he needs to start getting to another platform. But the problem is everyone's going to get into their little, it's like all the truthers that are going to Rockfin and everything. Well, what happens if Rockfin gets taken down now? It's like,
I'm just going to stick with the big ones. I'm going to just do Rumble and Odyssey, I think, because we know they're stable. We know the owner of Rumble's good. He's trying to expand it. They're trying to get their creators and everything. So all these little ones, exactly. And I mean, apart from the fact that, Rockfin has already censored people.
Like you.
They don't like me. They didn't want me at all, man. Like, they censored me.
I'm sharing my screen. So, switch to me real quick. All right. So see the eye is closed, and here. Over here is the ear, and before I could be really, really far away, like out here, and I could make out that the eye was open. In fact, actually, there it's open. Can you see? It's open there, and then I move into here.
And then they faded it and closed it in.
And as soon as I get close where I can start to see the big picture, I can't see anything until I get up right next to it. And then it opens up. So now I can't see the big picture, right? So if I go over here.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like an eye.
Look at this.
I mean, you should check out.
There's where the ear attached. And right there in the middle of it, right there, is a cave going in, and that's what I cover in the third video, and that's the most mind-blowing thing of all. That in the fifth video, which has to do with the remains of the eyeball, which are here, and then I recently did a live stream from the eye of Montgo, and that's definitely worth checking out, because I show things in there in that live stream that I hadn't shown in the Unveiling a Titan series. So that's, in a sense, that's also part. I should have called that Unveiling a Titan Part 7, that live stream, because I show the breakdown of this different kinds of rock here and here, and I talk about. I show this cave going through. This is the this opening here is what they call the infraorbital foramen. So there's a whole lot of specific anatomy just in the cave that's like 15 to 20 anatomical features, which is a lot more than it ought to be if it was just random chance. Just one quick thing to people who are like skeptical and they're looking at these lines going, well, why would it petrify in lines like this? Well, if you look at the skull from above and you look at the way the skull grows, it grows like rings of a tree, like topography lines of a mountain. And if you look at those lines from the side looking down, you're gonna see parallel lines from skull bone. And I have examples of that somewhere, which let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Yeah, so it's an interesting subject to get into if you haven't explored it yet.
Sorry, I'm just dropping a link for 13th Monkey in the chat.
Here's the, this is what I was talking about.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of content up there, but
that's all right. Go and subscribe and make more content. You've got like 12,000 million stars to show people, so that's a few videos.
There's also so not only are these rings growing, you know, so if you looked at this from the side, you would see that they're going to be parallel lines if the creature's, you know, laying down with its head tilted back. And also the discolorations can be explained, like where you have one color of a layer.
That's the skull. Is that the top of a head?
Yeah, this is skull bone, right? And also see how it zigzags here. These are called sutures. And I've got a video where I show that at the top of the mountain, the stone, you've got all this kind of stone, and then at the top of the mountain, the stone, there's this section where it looks completely different, and it zigzags as it goes up to the peak where the very top of Mont Go is. It's so fascinating how many different things there are. And just to show some of these different crazy things that I call biogeology. Now, some of it may be from electric mining, which is what somebody like Mike Ferrer would say. I think there's a lot of truth to his work, but I think he's just trying to apply it to everything instead of recognizing that there's probably you know, a lot of different scenarios that are explaining what we're finding. So that could be tree or it could be flesh. Either way, right? Because that's exactly what muscle fiber looks like as well. It goes red, white, red, white, red, white. So, you know, when you see something like this, mining waste, I don't think so. Sedimentary layering,
Bro, like exactly, like it makes no sense, and how just giant chunks of it here and there, like it doesn't make sense. And I almost have my bachelor's degree in geology, but I dropped out a year before finishing just because I got so freaking frustrated with how stupid academia was, and I kept getting kicked out of classes for showing evidence of things that weren't supposed to exist. But right. So it's like, it's just,
how dare you? I mean, so a lot of people would call this melted building. I think it's suspicious that it's a melted building, and you got this plateau over here. You know, it's hard to know, but this could be root structure. You know, there's so many. To me, this is tree. You know, these are, yeah. Maybe they mined and took everything away. Maybe it's castle. It's, you know, we got to get up next to this stuff. This is what I was talking about before. Slag heap, and this is one of these, you know, table rocks. So this is clearly something that can also be a scenario. This is from Mike Ferrer, I believe, this picture. But when I see this, no way, not lava cooling. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, and I usually do. So
yes. All right. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours and 45 minutes. So how's everyone feeling? I'm starting to die a bit here.
Indeed.
Yeah, I need to get
Mike,
some food.
Your daughter's probably been waiting a while now that we
rescheduled for a little later, so we're good.
Perfect.
Thanks for thinking of her.
Family's important, so
definitely.
But yeah, almost 3 hours. That's intense and crazy.
It is.
It's been awesome chat. We're definitely gonna have to do this again very soon.
Thank you for everyone in chat, and thank you for all the donations and everything. You are amazing peoples. And thank you to Mike and Bernie.
Thank you for having us.
Ooh, quickly, before we end it, I got to show this apple here that I've had in the electrolysis, or it was in the electrolysis reaction for a while, and then it was just sitting there for a little longer, or in a sealed jar here, and it's started to crystallize, and it's not decaying at all. It's actually becoming super hard and super crystallized, really. So
what's it sitting in?
Some of my monoatomics.
Wow.
So what kind of voltage are you using when you're doing the electrolysis?
The most I ever use is 5 volts, because until I have an actual lab, the higher you go, the more radiation, the more cold fusion reactions you actually have that start happening, and then the more dangerous it becomes.
What is the resting potential of the Earth? Like, does it have a voltage to it? The ground?
Oh, always. The ocean does, the grounding does.
Do you know how many volts that is? Because I know it's like 100 volts per meter as you get away from the ground, the electrostatic potential. But like the ground itself, the reason I ask is because obviously I'm thinking mud flood and the great floods. If you've got the high mineral salts, or you have mud, and then you've got a bit of electric potential, you've got electrolysis, right?
Exactly, and that's my whole point with the ocean and all of the muck or whatever they think that's at the bottom. It's actually all different monoatomics and diatomics, and one giant electrolysis battery of cold fusion that is powering and behind all the processes of our electric universe.
Makes sense to me.
And this apple is over a year old now. It's from last
year. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's
and
disgusting.
Is it like too hard to cut with a knife, or how?
Oh yeah, like when I'm putting this thing in, I'm like, it's like a stone almost. Like as soon as you get like a couple millimeters in, it's really hard to get in.
And that's a year at 5 volts.
No. So it was only the 5 volts was actually applied to it only for, I'd say, a day or two, and then it's been in this jar here, sealed in the monoatomics, resting in the metals. So it's been in here for a year, like that.
Wow.
Half submerged, half out of water, 0 rot, and just
don't drink that. I heard you've been drinking some of this stuff.
And crystallized.
Yeah, no, don't try this at home, people. You might turn out like balloon.
You got orgone there. That's gonna mess with everything too.
That's the next set of experiments. Is going to be mixing the monoatomics in with the organites itself.
Wow. Nice.
This one was the last gold that I made. Remember last time, Campbell? That,
that layering, yeah.
Gold. So the nano gold is now settling, and it looks like I put 2 amethyst crystals in, and I think the gold actually gold plated the amethyst. So I'm going to leave it for a couple of days before taking them out, and we will see.
There you go. Start a gold plating business.
Well, I was looking real quickly at. Let me just see if I can find it super fast. I was looking at electron microscope imaging of cellular structure, and I didn't realize that the way they do that is through electrolysis. Did you know that?
Say again.
When you do electron microscope imaging.
Oh.
So if you want to look at cellular structure, yeah. So let me show you. Let's see. Picks to sort. Is it here?
Different screen.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to find the folder where I've got those images. Where did I put those things? So many tabs open. It's like a metaphor for life. Here we go. Found it. Okay. Let's see. Am I sharing? Do you see that?
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah. So this is electron microscope. The coloring is fake. They've done that with computer, but apparently I don't know how they're doing it, but they're they're using electrolysis. So that's probably denaturing the cells in some way. But this is an artery with red blood cells. Hold on, where did pictures go? There we go. And so you're going to have all these epithelial cells, and then there's a fatty layer in here, and then that fatty layer is covered with the fourth stage of water, which is your structured water. So that's creating a perfect glide for the lipophobic particles. So you've got the fatty plasma, and then you've got the red blood cells that are floating around in that. So the plasma is like the oil that it's all floating through, and then these epithelial cells are covered in this structured water so that it flows even better. These are not what I thought I was going to show. Wait, here we go. So this is looking with an electron microscope at cells. I think these are, immune cells here. These are your regular blood cells. And so somehow using electrolysis, they're getting this. So the colors again are added by the computer, but this is an actual structure of a blood vessel in the cells. So the
that's weird.
Little toroids.
Little toroids.
Little toroids. I mean, look at how the detail. So this is actually a disease process. I can't remember what it's called, but it's this flattening, and so the cells are not going to move around freely the way they should. And then I don't know if this is just an artist's rendition or if this is for real, but if a capillary is really that narrow, isn't it fascinating? It's like these things are coming down these little tiny channels like they're on a water slide, and then they go deliver their nutrients to whatever tissue they're going to. It's just the body is so incredibly fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It's so complex.
Oh, the toroids. I'm a toroider too.
Yeah, man. Everything is a toroid.
Yep. Definitely.
Quick question for you. Is this Titan or is it megastructure?
Well, whenever it comes to stuff like this, I love it from an artistic perspective, and I can immediately see it. That looks like an Indian, definitely, and he's got the plumed hairdress coming out the back. So what? The feathers are going to petrify his mountains as well. It's like, and then there's another
faces together there.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of faces there. So if one of them is indeed really, if you should be able to go to the indentation where the eye is and recognize different histological structures that correspond to the change between an eye socket and what should be contained within the eye. So that's the kind of research the community needs to be doing if they're going to look into Titans. Following what I've done with Montgo as a model, and then the more people start to do that, then we start to really accumulate a preponderance of evidence in favor of the theory that Titans once existed. I call my first video "Conclusive Proof Titans Existed," but it was a tongue-in-cheek title, as was the thumbnail, because the tusks are photoshopped on from the very first video I made. So it was a very serious subject, but I approached it lightheartedly to try and open people's minds enough that they could ponder the possibility that something so absurd could perhaps be true. And the more you look into it, the more plausible it starts to sound.
You should get on try and do some TikTok videos, because there's stuff like this all over TikTok. TikTokers seem to be, they're just in an Eddie conspiracy at the moment. They're like anything that's slightly conspiracy theories, except Alchemy. Oh, that's right. They canned you.
For 2 months, I gained 1,000 subscribers each month for the first 2 months, and then they terminated my account saying I somehow violated TikTok's rules, and since it was attached to my phone and my email, they will not let me create a new TikTok account at all.
Oh my God.
You get no slack when you're over the target, right?
Yeah. I'm still up. I've got about 3,000 or so, just under, on TikTok.
Yeah, but that must mean you're a shill. I mean, what are the explanations?
Clearly, I'm a shill, man. I'm an agent. I know, right?
Right. He's got such a big sub count.
That's why I keep using backgrounds. Oh my God, it's gone. So you can't see the mansion I'm sitting in. I've got to put the green screens
Right. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually just a much higher quality green screen.
Yeah. I can see through it.
Hollywood has done this.
I can see the gold shine in the background.
Green screen.
I don't want to put
They
you
even photoshopped out my hair.
I don't even have a camera. I don't want to put you all to shame, you know. All of this glory here.
Yeah,
Mike's just 13th monkey Mike.
Actually, if you look at his picture, he kind of looks like that structure that you just showed us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
I loved your answer to this, Stellium, of like how you explained it, and like there's
teeth,
pure science and scientific method behind your approach to all of it.
Yeah, if you're just looking at pictures from one angle or a couple of angles and making assumptions and claims about it, you don't understand what you're doing. Doesn't mean you're wrong. You might be right about it, but until you've got more to go on, don't go around telling people, "Hey, look at this. This was once a gigantic." They're just gonna be looking. Okay, I don't know what he's been smoking, but probably too much of it.
Want some?
Yeah, where do you get that? Where do you get that
Give
stuff?
me some. Give me some of that. All righty.
And on that note.
Remember, guys.
Oh,
it's cool.
Staying's cool.
There you go with your occultic shill logo there.
Oh,
what was that?
Oh, bloody hell.
Things once seen cannot be unseen. Oh my God, I don't know what to make.
Man, do you know how much training I had to do to get those abs? Bloody hell.
Oh God, I'm glad you showed that picture.
What do you think those are?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I've got one more thing to share before we go. So, Roger's calling those tendon balls. Obviously, I'm still sharing my screen, I guess, huh?
Tendon balls?
Yes. So what is a tendon ball? Hold on.
It's a Vietnamese snack.
So
very chewy.
So let's see. You can see my screen right now. So this is from footage that Tyson from Mud Fossils Adventures.
They're on the left.
He calls. Yeah. So these are big. They can be microscopic as well. And if you look, let's see. Let's change it to tendon ball histology. Histology is just the study of tissue. So if you ever want to get like microscopic pictures of things, you can add the word histology, and you'll see.
It sounds clever. It sounds intelligent.
And I can't find it. Hold on, I've got a folder for this. Tendon ball. Say that again.
The guy also says that the moon is a tendon ball.
The moon?
He did. Yeah.
Moon?
He said it's unimpeachable because clearly it looked that way.
What? The moon?
Yeah.
What?
That's one of Roger's insights.
How does he explain that? How did it get up there? Like what? Where's the rest of the Titan?
I think we're getting into the moons of galvanic cathode and anode, more likely.
Yeah, okay. I think so.
Yeah, Mike Ferreira says it's mining waste, and he's got a lot of interesting things to say about that. So if you look here, here's the knee joint, and this is the tendon coming in and attaching at the bone. Well, the way that it attaches to the bone in a very strong way is it grows these little spherical things inside the bone. So I'm on board with Roger's tendon ball theory. I just think he's applying it to things that he shouldn't, and he's not seeing other things that he should.
To me, they look like some kind of a nut or seed, because there's some of them that are cracked and they've got like another orb inside them.
Right. So when you see something like this,
that one,
see the layering there, and that's consistent with how a tendon ball grows.
Okay.
And then you've got this sort of a thing. It's like, okay, this ball. Is this the remains of the tendon? I don't know. And then I just show a few more examples. There are these concretions, or whatever they're called, all over the world, these massive spherical stones. And so tendon balls is one possibility. And you see these mushroom things. I think they're called hoodoos.
Ringo.
It's like this, but it's oval shape. It totally looks like a mushroom cap at the top. but mushrooms grow like this also. So this could, mushroom is a possibility. And then I'm going to show you a couple of other things here that are going to be of interest.
Maybe they just have falling stars, falling planets.
Right. So these are,
space balls.
Came in like a tendon ball. Yeah.
So my eyes are burning. Oh,
this is a Christmas song.
Oh, tendon ball, how wonderful your roundness.
So what I
at some point?
I think you made that one, Mike. Yeah. So if we go back here to your question, Bernie, I'm just thinking if the great trees existed, and I'm 100% certain they did, based on the stuff we've talked about today.
That's what I was thinking.
They could be tree seeds is one possibility.
They look like macadamia nuts, man.
You've got when you look at conifers, something like this is a potential thing from a great tree as well, and then it erodes and it gets smoothed out. But you see some of these concretions that have these kind of sections in them. In fact, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, this is from Mud Fossil or Tyson's Mud Fossil Adventures. And he's just towing the line with everything Roger says. He and Roger are like two peas in a pod, both know everything about everything they're talking about. Not a whole lot of humility or open-mindedness to other ideas that they haven't already accepted as truths. And that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So could this also be something like these sorts of things? There's another possibility that has to do with.
We almost made it through without the porn bots getting here.
Oh, really? Oh, God. Okay.
So take a look at where is it?
Okay, French's the readies. Where'd they go? Oh, that was fast. Nice work, people.
So these are kidney stones. Notice the rings. So if the stones had formed inside of a gigantic being, then how big would those be? And this is a cerebellum. These are different kinds of stones, kidney stones. These are all biological. These have grown inside of bodies.
Oh, wow.
This even looks like brain, right? So you can see if that was 3 or 4 feet wide, it could be the same thing. So yeah, it could be a tendon ball, but it could also be something like that. And they can get very big, even in humans. They can be like 2 inches wide in a human. This is inside of a gallbladder. Look at how many of them are forming in there. And once a stone, already a stone, right? So I think a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in the geological record is biological. This is a petrified brain. That's from a whale. And you can see it almost looks like quartz crystal because it is. And this is another gallbladder. Look at all of those. So if one person or one creature can have that many stones in its gallbladder and the rest of the body is all destroyed in one way or another or eaten up or whatever, the stones are going to stay stones, right? So that could explain the prevalence of all of these smooth stones, that we see, along with the bone broth theory and the boiled egg theory of the petrified organs. So, some organs are very simple, like a disc, and they've got blood vessels going in and out, and like a kidney, for example. But a heart is very distinct, and it has specific openings and specific lines. And so that's why I focused on them, because they're far easier to spot visually, and there's way more anatomical specificity. So something like this, to make a claim about it, this is actual drawings, sketchings of different kinds of stones that are grown inside of bodies. So, and I think this is actually remains of great tree. The agate, when you get this layering, I think these are bigger structures that have eroded, like they tell us in the mainstream geological model. So yeah, a lot to ponder. These are petrified brains from a guy named Bruni. Then there's Girolamo Sagato also, we talked about before. Probably testicles can petrify as well. This is this is testicle. I think that's petrified testicle there. Kidneys, this is what a kidney or a testicle looks like in cross section. So that is a gallstone from a human.
Mike is disgusting us. earlier.
Can we stop looking at smashed testicles? I'm getting uncomfortable.
Isn't it weird how it actually gives you that pain in like the testicle when you see it and you hear it? Like it's just like, oh.
Yeah.
And it's
like women. Women have that connection, you know. They say women are all on the same level, all connected, you know. They can, you know, feel what's happening with their friends and family. And men are connected on the testicle level. We can feel each other's pain.
Roger loves to show the petrified vaginas and the petrified erect penises, and that makes no sense to me. Like, okay, it's going to petrify with an erection, right? That's not tissue. That's engorged with fluid.
Even though it's called a bone art, there's not much bone in there to petrify, right?
Yeah, so I mean that's a little far-fetched, but some of those cave structures do look a lot like female.
Actually, I've seen that one he shows of the it's like a hole in the ground, isn't it? And he says it's a
He loves that one. He brings that one up a lot. So
it's green, man. It's like what the hell?
Yes.
So there we go. I think we've all lost our minds in the last 5 minutes. So I hope you enjoyed that little rant through our brains. Well, Sherry, thank you for joining us.
You asked, Bernie. I had to tell you.
It was a beautiful way of ending this awesome 3 hours. It was a pleasure.
It was.
With both of you, Mikes, and always with Campbell.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Mike.
Thanks for being here, Mark. Going to sub to my channel, send a comment because they don't seem to come in anymore. So
yeah, so everyone make sure you go and sub to all the channels, Bernie, 30th Monkey, and Stellium. Links are below, but if you didn't have 30 monkeys, I'll add that.
We actually have a viewer on Twitch right now.
Woohoo! All right, Twitch. All right, we're coming to conquer Twitch next. So pass it around. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Thanks for being with us. Have an amazing day, evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. And we'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.
Peace.
Being autodidactics, the self-educated on what's actually out there.
We're just trying to rediscover, research, remember. With what's gone on in the last few years, it's like, can we really trust the information we've been given about anything? You know, if they're not going to tell us what's good for us, for our mental and physical well-being, then why would they tell us the truth about where we came from? You know, because that's the biggest thing, is people don't want to believe they've been lied to. You know, obviously no one wants to be lied to. And then the next bit after that is, they would never do that to us. You know, the government loves us, but does it really? Because we trust the science. Like literally, they put on the front for us on their Tell Live Vision, where they have their cast and they do a broadcast from Hollywood with their little holly wands. But it's just a front, right? Just like they put on the buildings, it's just a front.
We used their foundations and then covered it with a facade. Catastrophism used to be taught in higher education as the geology. It wasn't the crustal displacement theory, it was catastrophism, and that there was many resets. So we're just starting to put the pictures back together and the maps and trying to add everything up because so much has been deleted.
Tartaria. Where did it come from? What's the real story?
It seems like, and there's a lot of, you know, debate about the word Tartaria, and of course, you know, we use it because, you know, it's a topic, that's the word people know, but it's the old world. But the more we look into this, I mean, Tartaria, basically in the old encyclopedia says it was basically the whole northern hemisphere at one point. So it seems that it was not a country as we think of them, but more of a civilization, I guess, where there was independent countries, but they were all sharing the same information and technology and working together. Yeah, and then basically over time, during catastrophes, it got broken apart, and those people who like to take advantage, shall we say, sort of jumped in and stole it all.
It's the same civilization, that same Slavic civilization and technology and whatnot or group that later was Tartaria and then I guess broke apart. I would have been right before the World Wars, right? That would have been the last remnants being wiped out.
You know, the censorship that we see now, that's a book burning. That's just a book burning, but done on the internet.
Burn it.
Time. You know, and the calendars and the dates, we know they're always flipping calendars around, right? You know, from Julian to Gregorian. We know we talked about the Slavic calendar being, you know, in the year 7000. We know that Judaism is in the year 5000 somewhere. You know, all these different dates, and we're told we're in the year 2022. But are we? And what does that even mean? Right? How can we be in the year 2022 if someone else is in the year 5000 and something, and someone else is in the year 7000, right?
Right, the grand cycle, and why so many ancient civilizations paid so much attention to it, and building measuring the megalithic structures that have lasted throughout all of time. That's the grand celestial calendar to this day. And it's why they're trying to have this great reset yet again right now, because everybody's waking up, so they want to try to erase it all over again.
Don't ever try this at home.